What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto husband of Athena? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. ICE, screamed Rias. Huh, bucko? Thought Issei as he fell to the ground, battered and bruised. He barely made out her figure and saw that she was on the ground, screaming for him. What happened? I thought I attacked him. Thought Issei. Issei slowly turned his head and saw Riser laughing, mocking Rias for him being so weak. That's all your pawn has to offer, Rias? Riser is very disappointed in you. Riser didn't even have to use any Riser's power to defeat your useless pawn. Riser slowly started to walk towards the beaten form of Issei, ready to finish him off. Riser thinks it's time he finishes this joke. Stop, I forfeit. It's over, Riser. Rias ran towards Issei and hugged him. Thank you for trying your hardest, my cute pawn, but now you must rest, said Rias softly. The rating game is over. Riser wins, said Grafia over the loudspeakers. 10 minutes before the wedding between Rias and Riser in her bedroom. Shush, it's okay Rias, we will get through this, said Akano. Akano Himejima is a beautiful young woman with long black hair and bright violet eyes, currently wearing a velvet dress that hugged her curves nicely and showed over her creamy thighs. Currently, she is consoling Rias before the wedding starts. Sniff. No it won't, Akano. Sniff. My life is going to be ruined and so will everyone in the peerage too. Cried Rias. Rias is a beautiful red-headed woman, with green eyes that were currently bloodshot red from all the crying she had done. She is wearing an elegant white wedding dress that defined her voluptuous body. Sniff. Go now Akano, I'll be fine. Sniff. That's an order, whispered Rias. Akano, knowing that Rias needed a few moments to be alone, granted her king her wish and left the room. Please, somebody save my king, said Akano as she left to go to the grand ballroom, tears coming down her face as she walked. Back to Rias in the bedroom. Rias slowly got up her chair and moved towards her nightstand by her bed. She opened the drawers, frantically searching for an item. Where in Lucifer is it? Said Rias as she kept on looking through her nightstand. She kept on searching and finally got what she was looking for. Thank Mao, it's still here. Maybe this is my last chance to break out of this engagement, she cried. What she found was a letter. In the letter were details about help. Need help? Scream out my name and I shall come. One wish and it shall be done. With that, Rias left her bedroom, relying on that one letter to change the rest of her life. Grand ballroom. The ballroom was filled with nobles that were waiting for the wedding to begin between Riser and Rias. Chatter between nobles, eagerly waiting to see the joining of the houses of Gremory and Phoenix by this marriage. Off to the side of the ballroom, Rias's peerage was located. Kiba Yuto, Rias's knight, was dressed in a black tuxedo, aimlessly talking to some of his admirers, while thinking about what will happen to his king. Kaneko Taju, a petite, white-haired girl, was Rias's rook, was dressed in a black dress, sitting in a chair eating desserts with her stoic face, all the while thinking about the outcome of this grim situation. Akano finally entered back into the ballroom and joined Kaneko. Asia Argento, a petite blonde, was sitting on the other side of Kaneko, nervously looking around the room, noticing all of the devils. She was wearing a white dress that made her look like a holy maiden. Issei Hayudu, an average-looking male, was Rias's pawn, currently wearing a tuxedo. Seething, Issei said, why can't we help Bucko? She obviously doesn't want this and we have to do something about it. Issei-kun, said Akano. We can't do anything about it because we lost the rating game between Riser. We all don't want Rias to get married to that monster, but there is nothing we can do about it. But, just as Issei was about to retort, the doors to the grand ballroom opened, revealing Rias Gremory. In front of the altar at the front of the ballroom was an eagerly waiting Riser, openly leering at Rias, thinking about what he could do to that body. Once Rias came up to the altar, she looked at everything other than Riser himself. Sirzex Lucifer, formerly Gremory, is Rias's older and would join the two in marriage, even though he hates it himself. Now, stated Sirzex, before we begin, does anyone here have any objections between the marriage of Riser Phoenix and Rias Gremory? No one spoke out against it, even though Issei wanted to. He was currently unable to, with Kaneko knocking him out. Just when Sirzex was about to continue on, Rias screamed, I refuse to marry Riser. Ho, what are you going to do about it, Rias? Riser has already beaten you in a rating game, stated Riser. Rias, knowing that it was her last chance, took out the letter from her chest and screamed out a name. Naruto Uzumaki, help me. In an unknown cave, hidden in the darkness of the cave, a pair of electric blue eyes opened and quickly disappeared. Back to the wedding, ha 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 ha. Nothing happened, my dear Rias, so be quiet and be married to me, laughed Riser. Suddenly, an explosion on the roof of the ballroom appeared. Boom! Guards! Exclaimed Sirzex, go to the hole and figure out who caused that. Hi! Exclaimed the guards as they flew up to see what caused the hole in the roof. As the guards flew up to the roof, not even a second passed and all of the heads of the guards that flew up were suddenly falling towards the ground. Ah! Screamed some nobles as it was currently chaos in the ballroom. Devils were scrambling around, looking for a safe place to hide from whatever presence caused that. A figure appeared from the smoke of the explosion and out came was a handsome young man, standing at 6 feet with blonde hair, electric blue eyes and wearing headphones. He was dressed in a simple white shirt and black blazer with matching black pants and shoes. Who are you? Stated Sirzex as he prepared to take down the infiltrator. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am here to save this pretty Ojoyu-chan over here, stated said Naruto pointing towards Rias. How dare you filthy commoner to come into Riser's wedding? Sneered Riser. Riser Phoenix is the third son of the Phoenix household and won against Rias during the rating game. He is a handsome high-class devil in his early 20s with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes. Currently, he is wearing a red blazer with matching red pants and red shoes, embracing the essence of the Phoenix. Guards, stop this peasant at once, he shouted. Off to the side of the Riser were multiple gasps as they saw who appeared before their eyes. Naruto, uttered Venelena Gremory. She is the wife of Zeoticus Gremory, mother to Sirzex Lucifer and Rias Gremory, and formerly a Bial. Taking the appearance of a woman in her early 20s, Venelana has light brown shoulder-length hair, creamy pale skin, light brown eyes, and a large bust. She is wearing a white dress that shows off her shoulders and like Rias, it displays her large chest. Holding both hands towards her mouth, several tears fell out of her eyes as she saw Naruto. Next to Venelana, another woman did the same thing as her as she saw Naruto. Dressed in a bright red dress was a woman in her early 20s with bright blonde hair, blue eyes, and a large bust like Venelana. Her name is Raven Phoenix, wife of Raviel Phoenix and mother of Riser. He really came back, she muttered softly as tears came down her face. Back to Naruto and Riser. Do you really think guards can stop me after what I just did to some of them a few minutes ago? Said Naruto as he crossed his arms with a bored look on his face. I'll just kill them as well, so stop sending fodder towards me, okay? Guards, don't listen to what this fool says and kill him, screamed Riser. He was going to marry Rias and nothing was going to stop him from marrying her. Riser will make Rias his own and take that black-haired bitch and white-haired bitch Riser's own as well, he thought. The guards just looked between Riser, who was seething in rage, and said named Naruto, who was looking at them with a bored look. You rush towards me and you all die, calmly said Naruto. They didn't know what to do in this situation. Anger a lord from the Phoenix family or die like their brethrens. We were never told about this type of situation at guard school, they internally screamed. Don't listen to that fool and, said Riser. Just as Riser was about to force the guards to kill this commoner, he was interrupted. Now, let's all be calm about this and sort this out, said Sirzex as he interrupted Riser. As he stopped Riser, he turned towards a calm Naruto. Now who might you be, sir? This is a private event between the Gremory and Phoenix families, said Sirzex feigning ignorance towards Naruto. Shut up and follow along with this act. You better have a good explanation after you disappeared for 10 years, said Sirzex through a mental link between him and Naruto. Naruto, knowing that now was not the time to fuck around, decided to put on a cheerful act. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am here to end this marriage between Rias Gremory and this douchebag over here. Dat Bayo, he exclaimed. I will not ACCE. Just as Riser was about to tell this commoner to know his place, he was once again interrupted. Ma, Riser-kun, why don't we have a rating between you and Naruto-kun over here? Said Sirzex as turned his head towards him. After all, if you can beat this said commoner, then I'm sure no one else will dare to challenge you, he said. If Sirzek-sama insists, then Riser shall destroy this filthy commoner to the ground and show him that Riser is the best, arrogantly said Riser. Hey, what an easy challenge. Riser shall destroy this fool, he thought. As he agreed, Sirzek turned his head back to Naruto. Do you agree to this, Naruto-kun? Sure, wait, on second thought. Naruto said as he rubbed his chin, and suddenly, a light bulb appeared over his head. How about Yakitori-san over here fights with his peerage against me? He proposed as he nodded his head as approval. Ha 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 ha, you think you can beat Riser and Riser's peerage by yourself? I accept, Riser arrogantly said. Awesome datbayo. Let's fight now, said Naruto smirking inwardly. Hey, what a dumbass. Get ready to get destroyed, he thought. Now that both opponents agreed to a rating game, we will proceed to the fight. Everyone, get ready for a match between Riser Phoenix and Naruto Uzumaki, announced Sirzek to the entire ballroom. Both of you get ready and go to your respective spots in 10 minutes, said Sirzek as he showed both Riser and Naruto the spots to stand for the game. Hi, alrighty, said Riser and Naruto respectively. As Riser was about to leave to gather his peerage, he walked by Naruto and said, Get ready to lose, you filthy commoner, sneered Riser. Right back at you, said Naruto cheerfully. After Riser left, as Naruto was about to walk out, he suddenly felt a presence behind him getting closer and closer towards him. Suddenly he was hugged by someone. Turning his head to see who it was, he smiled slightly. Thank you so much for doing this, Naruto-san, said Rias as she hugged Naruto from behind. Without you, I don't know what I would have done. Don't worry about it, Ojou-chan. After all, you summoned me and woke me up as well, so I should be thanking you. Softly said Naruto. I'll beat this Yakitori for you. He smiled down at her. Rias was too caught up in the moment of her soon-to-be savior that she suddenly remembered what just happened a few moments ago with his proposal against Riser. Shen then let go of Naruto and began to slap his back. You baka, why would you suddenly ask to fight Riser with his peerage? Are you crazy? Rias said as she kept on slapping Naruto's back. What was this guy thinking? Was he even strong enough to fight Riser, let alone his entire peerage? This guy is crazy, she thought. Itai, that hurts, Ojou-chan, said Naruto, pretending to be hurt by her slaps. Don't worry about it. Yakitori-san and his peerage are nothing compared to the mighty Naruto, as he puffed his chest out in pride. Rias ignored him and stopped slapping his back and instead started to pinch his cheek as hard as she could. Mo, be serious about this, Naruto-san. What if you lose to him? I don't want to marry him, exclaimed Rias as she puffed out her cheeks, with tears threatening to spill. Who would want to marry a womanizer like Riser? This was her last chance to stop the marriage, and this guy wasn't even being serious. Naruto, knowing that she was worried about him, took her hand off his cheek and placed his hand on top of her head. Don't worry, Rias. Everything is going to be alright. You did call me through the letter after all, said Naruto softly as he pet her head. His eyes smiled towards her and sent her a soft smile. Doki Doki. Rias felt heat rush to her cheeks as she blushed at what Naruto was currently doing to her. Pushing those feelings to the side, she muttered, alright if you say so. You better win. Era. Does Bucko already like her blonde-haired savior? So cute, teased Akeno as Kiba, Kaneko, Asia, Issei, and herself watched the interaction between Rias and Naruto. Get away from Bucko, you blonde-haired Bishonen, shouted Issei as he internally cried at seeing his master interact with this random guy. I hate pretty boys so much. They should all die, he screamed internally. Akeno, there is nothing going on between me and Naruto-san, shouted Rias, a little flustered at being seen by her peerage. Right, Naruto, said Rias as she turned to look at Naruto, but didn't see him. Hello, pretty lady. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Humble shinobi at your service, said Naruto as he kneeled on one knee and kissed her knuckle. He looked like a typical manga character meeting a beautiful woman. Era. Pleasure to meet you, Naruto-kun. My name is Akeno Himejima. Humble sadist and Rias's queen, she said, lightly blushing at his action. No one ever had the guts to do this action towards her, as most were mesmerized by her beauty to do such a thing. Ooh, a sadist. I like that, commented Naruto as he stood back up. Just as he was about to walk towards the petite white-haired girl, a hand grabbed his ear and started to pull. Itai itai Ojou-chan. Naruto whined as Rias started to pull on his ear. Why would you do that to my queen Naruto-san? Exclaimed Rias. I was just greeting Akano-chan and was going to greet the rest of your peerage, he retorted, amused by her reaction. Era. Is Bucko jealous of me because Naruto-kun kissed my hand? Teased Akano as she giggled in her hand, inwardly smiling that Rias's mind wasn't on the marriage at the moment. Oh? Ojou-chan is jealous of Akano-chan because of little Olmi? I could die happily now, teased Naruto as he pretended to be lightheaded. No, I'm not jealous, Rias said as she nearly screamed. Noticing her slip up, she quickly composed herself. Anyways, Naruto-san, I would like for you to meet the rest of my peerage. I was going to do that but you interrupted me. Ojou-chan, teased Naruto, earning him a slap on the back of the head courtesy of Rias. Kaneko Taju, said Kaneko in monotone as she continued to eat sweets. Kiba Yuto. A pleasure to meet you Naruto-san, said Kiba as he smiled at his fellow blonde. Asia Argento. It's a pleasure to meet you Naruto-san, stuttered Asia as she nervously bowed towards Naruto. My name is Issei Hyodo. You better stay away from Bucko Naruto-teme. Her S are mine, said Issei as he pointed his finger at Naruto demanding him to stay away from his master. A pleasure to meet you all. As I said before, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, said Naruto as he smiled, completely ignoring what Issei said. Hey, shouted Issei, but was still ignored. Now I must get ready for the rating game, so why don't you all sit down and watch the game? I will guarantee that it will be interesting, said Naruto as he started to leave to go to his position. Before he left, he assured Rias that everything was going to be okay. Don't worry Ojou-chan, I got this, so just relax and take your mind off this marriage, he said softly as he left. Rias smiled softly as she watched Naruto leave. Calling her peerage to go to their booth, Rias thought to herself, good luck Naruto. Please win. With Naruto. As Naruto started to walk down the hallway towards the entrance to the rating game stadium, he was suddenly met by Circex, Graphia, Venelana, and Raven, who looked like they were waiting for him to come. Yo, said Naruto as he casually waved his hand towards them. Nothing was said for a solid minute, until he was suddenly slapped by two people. Venelana Gremory and Raven Phoenix slapped Naruto in the face, with slight tears in their eyes. Where were you all this time? Shouted Venelana and Raven as they wanted to know where he was for the past 10 years. How dare he just show up, casually waving towards them when he disappeared without saying anything to them. This bastard needs to be taught a lesson, they both thought. Just as they were about to slap him again for being such a fool, Naruto grabbed both their hands and hugged them. Sorry for being away, but I have a good reason for it. I swear, I promise I'll tell all of you about after the rating game, said Naruto as soothed both of them, knowing that physical contact was the only way to calm these women down. Damn women, he thought, smiling inwardly. You better, they both muffled on his shoulders as he kept on hugging them. Noticing Circex and Graphia, he slightly smiled and said, Yo Circex, yo Graphia-chan. Circex slightly smiled at him while Graphia glared at Naruto. Seeing her glare, Naruto said, I'll make it up to you ladies, okay? I am back for good this time. Softening her glare, Graphia nodded and muttered, You better Naru. While not showing it, Graphia was worried sick about Naruto for the past 10 years and wanted to know where he was, just like Venelana and Raven. Alright ladies, we can hug more later, but now I have a rating game to attend to, said Naruto as he let go of Venelana and Raven. I won't hurt him too much, okay Raven? He said towards Raven. Promise, she said. Don't worry, I won't kill the kid, he chuckled. Itai, he said as she slapped him on the back of his head. You better not, she muttered. Let's go now Naruto-kun. The game is about to start, said Circex. Alrighty then, I'll see you ladies later. Relax and enjoy the Uzumaki show, exclaimed Naruto as he and Circex left. Venelana, Raven, and Graphia giggled at what he said and proceeded to go back to their booth to see the spectacle. Hopefully Naruto won't cause too much harm to Riser, right? With Naruto and Circex, Naruto felt the anger roll off of Circex as they walked towards the rating game room. He turned his head to look at Circex to see that he was looking straight ahead with a smile on his face, but it didn't match with the aura he was giving off. Searzek's aura would have crushed Naruto if he was as strong as a low-class devil, but that was not the case. Naruto shrugged off the aura Searzek was giving him and said, "Look, I know you are mad about me for disappearing for 10 years, but like I said to the ladies, I will explain it to all of you as soon as the rating game is over." "I understand that," said Searzek, still giving off the aura. Then why are you still mad?" questioned Naruto as he was confused now. "What did he do now? What I want to know is how does Rias know who you are? From what I remember, you two have never met before," Searzek calmly stated. "Ah, you want to know about that," said Naruto sheepishly as he scratched the back of his head. "I'll tell you about that later too," he said as they reached the entrance of the doors where the game will begin and will soon part ways with Searzek. "But what I'll tell you now is that I met Rias for the first time when she got kidnapped." At what Naruto said, Searzek's eyes widened. "Why?" Just as Searzek was about to stop Naruto, the doors opened. "Alright Searzek, I'll see you later." "Yeah," said Naruto as he stepped past the doors and looked back, grinning all the way. "That idiot," said Searzek, but smiled nonetheless and made his way towards the booth to start the game. Rating Game Stadium with Naruto. "Wow, this stadium is huge," said Naruto as he looked around the entire stadium. All around were trees, an endless amount of trees. "Looks like it's a forest," said Naruto as he looked around. "Stealthy or destructive?" "Stealthy or destructive?" muttered Naruto as he thought about which choice to do. Destructive sounds like more fun," grinned Naruto as he stood at his spot, waiting for the announcement to begin. "Now that both parties are ready, we will be starting the rating game between Riser Phoenix and Naruto Uzumaki." What did that mongrel do to them? No matter, they were the weakest after all. Mira, Sharia, Burant, Marion, and Schwalen. "Don't make the same mistake as the other four and defeat this fool," said Riser after he composed himself. He is currently in a small house in the other side of the forest with his peerage, resting believing that this would be an easy game. Riser can't wait to finish this mongrel and get married to Arya's thought Riser as his mind went towards more perverted thoughts. After the command from their master, they will make sure not to fail him and defeat this mongrel. Right when the game just started with Riser and his peerage, flashback sorta. Begin. Eel, Nell, Ni, and Lee. Go destroy that fool. If you manage to defeat him, then I'll give you all a special reward, said Riser as he went up to all four of them and kissed them. Don't let me down, he whispered to the four of them as they nodded. We won't let you down Riser-sama, said Eel, Nell, Ni, and Lee as they eagerly nodded their heads. Eel and Nell are twin sisters and pawns of Riser Phoenix. Both of them are young girls with turquoise hair and blue eyes dressed in gym uniforms, consisting of a white shirt and black leggings. Their weapon of choice are blue chainsaws, ready to cut down opponents without a second thought. Ni and Lee are also twin sisters like Eel and Nell and pawns of Riser Phoenix. They are both young girls in their teens with Ni having red eyes and blue hair, while Lee having blue eyes and red hair. Both are sporting skimpy sailor outfits, showing their stomach and lower S. Their weapon of choice are fighting gloves and leg guards. With the enemy in mind, the four pans darted into the forest, ready to find the blonde-haired commoner and end the game, thus getting a reward from their master. With Naruto, looks like Yakitori-san made his move said Naruto as he was standing still looking straight into the forest. I'll just listen to some music, since none of them are worth my time, muttered Naruto as he put on his headphones. Maybe I should read too, he said as he took out an orange book. Naruto remembered Issei being a pervert and decided to show him something special. Oi, brown-haired pervert, look what I have, shouted Naruto as he showed Issei who was in the booth with the rest of the Gremory peerage the orange book. In the Gremory, Phoenix booth. WHWH what? Shouted Issei as he saw the book that Naruto was holding. How did he manage to get that book? He was looking for that ever since the series came out. What is it, Issei? What's so special about that book? Questioned Rias as she was annoyed that Naruto wasn't even trying to finish off the match and was playing around, not noticing what type of book it was. That book is the limited edition volume 1 of the Icha Icha series by the great Jiraiya-sama, cried Issei as he always wanted to get the limited edition copy. It was rumored that the limited edition copy contained even more greatness than the regular copies distributed to the public. How did that Teme get a hold of that book? Stupid Bishonens, shouted Issei from the top of his lungs. Blaming Bishonens for everything was always the way to go when something went wrong. Ria's just sweat dropped at the reaction of Issei. Sure, she heard of the book, every devil has heard of the series and it was widely popular throughout the entire underworld, but what could be so different about the limited edition? She will never understand perverts. Naru-kun really is confident about this match, said Venelana as she, Graphia, and Raven suddenly appeared. Mother? Graphia? Raven-sama? Where were you all this time? The game just started, said Rias as she was wondering where the three ladies were. They were usually together with everyone else. We were just taking care of some things, Rias. Don't worry about it, okay? Let's just enjoy the game now, said Venelana as she and Raven sat down with their respective husbands, with Graphia standing behind them. Rias was a little suspicious at what her mother said, but dismissed it as the game mattered more at the moment. How was it with him? Where was he the entire time? Asked Zeoticus and Raviel with their respective wives. He's fine, dear. He is going to explain everything to us after this game is over, said Venelana as Raven nodded her head with what she said. Ah, okay then. All I'm worried about right now is what he is going to think about what we did with Rias, shivered Zeoticus as he remembered Naruto's tendencies whenever something unjust was done in the devil community. All Raviel could do was nod his head as he slightly feared Naruto's wrath as well. Mother, you know Naruto-san? Do you know him as well, father? Said Rias as she just realized what she said. For another time, Rias. For another time, dismissed Venelana as the conversation about the history between her and Naruto came to an end. Zeoticus nodded his head at what his wife said. We will explain everything later, he said. Back with Naruto. Naruto continued to read Icha Icha while listening to music when he suddenly felt the presence of the four pawns. They should be here in 5 minutes, huh? Muttered Naruto as he took his eyes off of the book and started to look up towards the booth again. Oi, Oju-chan, let me show you some ways on how to use the power of destruction instead of just a ball of energy like you usually do, said Naruto as he activated his Rinne Sharingan on and started to gather energy. What he created was shaped as a small animal. What? Shouted Rias as the rest of her peerage were wide-eyed, astonished by what just happened. How can Naruto-san use the power of destruction? He isn't even a Biao, said Rias as she witnessed Naruto create what looked like a small rabbit, but made out of the power of destruction. Seeing that her mother knew about Naruto, Rias turned to Venelana and asked her the same question. Mother, father, how does Naruto-san know how to use the power of destruction? Am I missing something here? She questioned as she felt out of the loop. You can ask your brother. He is the one who allowed Naruto to be able to use the power of destruction, said Venelana. Rias was about to go straight to her brother to ask when her mother stopped her. Don't ask now, dear. Searsex is busy monitoring the game, so sit back down, but I'll tell you one thing about Naruto, she said as Rias sat back down. His eyes are the source to his ability to use the power of destruction. His eyes, muttered Rias as she then noticed how Naruto's eyes took on a different color than his usual electric blue. What took place instead of his blue eyes were now blood red with circular lines and black dots in the eyes. What types of eyes are they? They look weird, stated Rias. Dear, said Venelana as Rias looked towards her mother. You're asking too many questions right now. Please be quiet and watch the game, she said as Rias pouted at her mother for basically telling her to shut up and at her father seeing him chuckling at her. Foo, said Akano as she slightly laughed at her master being told to be quiet. Be quiet, Akano, said Rias as she then turned to slightly glare at Akano before looking back at the match. Naruto may actually win this then if he can use it, the power of destruction. And what did he mean about knowing how to use my power, thought Rias as she narrowed her eyes at the creation Naruto made. Oju-chan, watch and learn, Naruto shouted as he created the small rabbit. Go into the forest and wait on my command, he said as the rabbit, of destruction, went into the forest where the four pawns were coming from. Naruto then closed his eyes, waiting for the right moment to strike. This will be the easiest 4 outs of my life, thought Naruto as he continued to listen to his music. He was still by the starting point, feeling no obligation to move any further. Back with the pawns? We're almost there, shouted Ni and Lee as they were quickly closing down on Naruto. It looks like he is still by the starting point, said Nell and Eel when suddenly they all sensed something coming and stopped. Wah, it's a rabbit, kill kill, shouted both Ni and Lee as they saw the rabbit, of destruction, looking at them. Is a rabbit supposed to be black and red? Questioned Nell as they went closer towards the rabbit. I want to kill it, shouted Ni and Lee as they suddenly rushed towards the rabbit. With Naruto opened his eyes and muttered out, explode. With the pawns, wait, shouted Nell as she noticed the rabbit was acting strangely. Don't touch the rabbit. It was too late for that as both Ni and Lee hit the rabbit, causing the rabbit to do something. Questioned Ni and Lee as they looked back towards Nell and Eel. Suddenly, boom, Riser Pfennig's 4 pawns have retired. Present, go, you 5 better destroy him, shouted Riser as Mira, Sharia, Burant, Marion, and Schwalen left the small house to track down Naruto. In the Gremory, Phoenix booth. How is that possible? Shouted Rias as she witnessed what just happened. How could Naruto defeat 4 pawns with making so little use of the power of destruction? That was impossible. How can he defeat 4 pawns with such a small thing? She nearly screamed as she said that. The rest of Rias's peerage were all wide-eyed as they witnessed how easily Naruto destroyed them. How strong is that guy? Muttered Kiba as he clenched his fists. How could Naruto easily do that when he had some difficulty with just one of them? That Teme, said Issei as he just witnessed how powerful that Bishonen was. Hell, even he couldn't easily defeat just 4 pawns, let alone even 1. Just how much power did this guy even have? Can I even catch up to this guy's power? How crazy strong is he? Thought Issei with gritted teeth. Strong, stoically said Kaneko as she kept on watching the game with no emotion. Era, I wonder if he would make me go boom boom, said Akano with a flustered expression as she imagined herself with Naruto dominating her. Damn woman and their crazy masochistic fantasies. At what she said, every devil in the room sweat dropped at what Akano just said. Dear, do you want to know how Naruto was able to do that? Said Venelana as Rias furiously nodded her head towards her. Yes mother, please tell me, she pleaded as she wanted to know how to become stronger. Imagination dear, stated Venelana as she looked back towards the game. Instead of finding answers, that comment made Rias even more lost, not understanding what that meant. Wah, just as Rias was about to ask her mother more questions, she knew not to as her mother would just scold her even more. What does imagination have to do with anything? Arg, thought Rias as she internally screamed. Meanwhile, Grafia and Raven were just shaking their heads at what Naruto was doing. What is this idiot doing? Just end this already so we can get answers, thought both Grafia Raven as they stared at Naruto standing still when he suddenly started to walk into the forest. With Naruto, so boring, moaned Naruto as he deactivated his Rinne Sharingan and started to walk into the forest. Where were these people? How long were they going to keep him waiting because there was only so much that he can take? If they won't come to me, then I'll just go to them and beat them up for making me wait, angrily muttered Naruto as he kicked some rocks around. Hummed Naruto as he immediately noticed 5 presences just a few hundred meters ahead of him. Looks they noticed that I was walking towards them and started to hide in hopes of catching me off surprise, mused Naruto as he suddenly stopped walking. Deciding to play along with their plan, Naruto decided to continue walking through the forest, feigning ignorance of the presences nearby. Ahead of Naruto where the 5 members are. He's almost coming. Get ready to attack, said Schwalen as the rest of the members got ready to attack. As Naruto was getting closer towards them, they started to gather their powers in hopes of striking him all at once, giving him no chance to counterattack. 3, 2, 1, mouthed Schwalen, as Naruto was almost to them. Go! As Naruto was walking towards them, he noticed that they were still waiting for him to come closer to them. Looks like they are planning to attack me all at once. They're not even hiding the buildup of their energy, thought Naruto as he continued walking. Go! Finally, thought Naruto as he pretended to be shocked by their hidden attack. Schwalen, Mira, Sharia, Burant, and Marion appeared from behind the trees and bushes and started to rush Naruto. Die for disrespecting our master, shouted all 5 of them as they all rushed towards Naruto. All of them managed to hit Naruto, causing a shockwave to occur around them. Boom! The attack caused by all 5 of them led to a buildup in dust all around them and the trees to shake wildly, clouding the 5 women and Naruto. "Did we cough hit him?" shouted Mira as they were coughing from the dust and debris all around them. "Cough cough, I think we did," shouted Shiraya. "Was that all?" boredly said Naruto as he looked at them all. "I'm pretty sure that little kids can hit harder than you 5 combined," he stated as he looked at the shocked faces of the 5 women. What?" muttered Shueilin as she looked at the uninjured form of Naruto. "We used our strongest moves to attack him and it didn't even do anything?" "Those were your strongest moves?" questioned Naruto as he was a little surprised by the prospect. "They were really weak for strongest moves, you know. Let me show you what I showed those other 4 little girls and maybe you girls can see the difference between our power," stated Naruto as he activated his Rinne Sharingan again. "I'll make some a little bigger for you girls this time," he smirked as he started to gather the power of destruction in his hands. "I call this power the ruin of creation." How is that possible?" cried out Burnt as the other 4 were just as shocked that this blonde nobody had the ability to use the power of destruction. "You're not even a Biel," shouted Mira. This was totally unexpected and they didn't expect that this guy would be powerful, but it seems that they were wrong and severely underestimated him. "Don't worry about it right now girls. Let's attack him now while he is gathering power," shouted Shueilin as the rest of them got out of their stupor and nodded their heads. "Attack him now," shouted Shueilin as they rushed Naruto for a second time in hopes of catching him midway of him gathering his energy. "Chakra chains," muttered Naruto as chains erupted from behind his body and rushed forward, stopping the girls and effectively chaining them. What is this? I can't break free," screamed out Mira as she struggled to break free from the chains. As she struggled, the chains tightened its hold on her, hurting her even more. "Arg!" screamed out Mira. "Resist and it will hurt even more," said Naruto as he was deciding on what type of creation to make. In the Gremory, Phoenix booth. "What are those chains with the blue aura around it?" questioned Rias as she, along with everyone else in the booth, saw what he did to the members of Riser's peerage. Meanwhile, Kaneko widened her eyes in shock, replacing the stoic face with one of surprise and a little bit of fear. "He's using chakra," said Kaneko as every devil in the booth turned to her. "Chakra?" muttered Rias, thinking about what it meant to use that. "Does that mean that Naruto-san knows how to use senjutsu as well?" said Rias as she turned to her mother, looking for answers from her as she seemed to know a lot about him. "Who knows, dear? Maybe he can," Venelana mysteriously replied as Rias pouted at the vague answer she got from her mother once again. Rias then turned her head towards Kaneko to see that she was looking at Naruto in slight fear because of his ability to use chakra. "Don't worry Kaneko. I'm sure Naruto-san won't go drunk in power if he knows how to use senjutsu," assured Rias as Kaneko relaxed slightly, but still held a little amount of fear. "Okay bucko," said Kaneko as she continued to stare at Naruto. "With Naruto, let us out," shouted Shueilin, Shiraya, Mira, Marion, and Burnt as they still struggled to break away from the chains. "What are these chains made out of? They're so strong," thought all of the girls. What to make?" muttered Naruto as he ignored what the girls said and continued to think about what type of creature to make out of the power of destruction. "A dragon sounds good," said Naruto as he brought his fist to his hand, satisfied with the decision. "A dragon? Ha, like you can create a dragon," said Mira haughtily. Instead of getting a retort from Naruto, all she got was a smirk that sent shivers down her spine. "Don't worry ladies, this dragon is going to make it quick and painless," said Naruto as he sent an evil smirk to them. With his Rinne Sharingan activated, he whispered, "Power of creation, dragon," and quickly, a large dragon made out of the power of destruction formed. Note: think of Black Rose Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5 Deci Seconds, but completely black and red. "Wrahhhhhh," screeched the dragon as Mira, Shueilin, Burnt, Shiraya, and Marion all stared in shock as the dragon of destruction towered over them, radiating in power. The chakra chains suddenly stopped binding them and disappeared, giving the girls an opportunity to try and run. Run!" roared Shueilin as the rest of the girls broke out of their daze and ran in the direction of Riser's base. "Hey!" chuckled Naruto as he watched them deeper into the forest, knowing that it was useless doing so. "Attack! Strike them down now," commanded Naruto. Ra! Exclaimed the dragon of destruction, as it flew high into the sky and dived towards the girls. Burrent noticed that the dragon was coming towards them at fast speeds and knew that it was useless running, as they would eventually fail their master. We failed Riser-sama, thought Burrent as the dragon got closer and closer and eventually. Boom! The entire arena violently shook like an earthquake as the shockwave caused by the dragon was enormous, covering the entire arena in a shroud of dust, clouding everything up. One of Riser's rooks and 4 pawns have retired. In the Gremory, Phoenix booth, Rias and her peerage all watched in shock as they saw the huge dragon made out of the power of destruction fly into the sky and dive towards the members of Riser's peerage, instantly destroying them like it was nothing. Rias looked towards the direction where Naruto was located and saw that he was just grinning with no signs of fatigue. Who exactly is this guy? Wondered Rias as she couldn't fathom his strength anymore, but inwardly happy that it looked like the game would end in Naruto's favor. Ha ha ha, he still loves to show off, laughed Zeoticus as he saw that Naruto was still the same guy he remembered before he disappeared. Raviel just sighed and hoped that his son would at least be okay after this game. That guy always wanting to show off, even though he doesn't want the attention. What a dumbass, muttered Raven as she and Graphia both sighed at what he was doing. Venelana just giggled at what she said because it was so true. On the other side of the underworld, man, he really loves to show off, doesn't he, Valley? Said a handsome man with black hair and yellow bangs. He was dressed in a black blazer that was unbuttoned at the top, showing off his toned pecs. He currently watching the rating game between Naruto Uzumaki and Riser Phoenix, amused by the show. It doesn't matter if he shows off or not. All I want to see just how strong Naruto-san is so I can fight him, Azazel. Said Valley. Valley is a tall handsome male with silver hair. He is also wearing an unbuttoned black blazer with a black V-neck shirt, defining his pecs. The now mentioned Azazel laughed at Valley's remark about fighting Naruto. Ha 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 ha, laughed Azazel. You're not even close to his power at the moment. Heaven, Naruto-san really is strong, isn't he, Gabriel? Said a tall handsome woman with long blonde hair, blue eyes and a halo over his head. Yes, as expected of Naruto-sama Oni-sama. With Riser, one of Riser's rooks and 4 pawns have retired. How dare that piece of shit. Isabella, Cyrus, Carlamine, Mihae, Revel, Ubaluna. Go kill that Motherfucker, shouted Riser as he was shaking in rage at what just happened. He didn't care that some of his peerage members have retired, but the fact the blonde bastard basically embarrassed him in front of the entire devil population. Yes, Riser-sama, and with that, the remaining peerage members left in a hurry to go find Naruto in hopes of avenging their fallen comrades. With Naruto, I should finish this up as quickly as possible, muttered Naruto as he rubbed his stomach. I'm so hungry. I want ramen. Ramen, huh? Questioned Naruto as he sensed something coming towards him. A huge fireball was coming his way, making him run to the side to dodge it. A bomb-like explosion happened right next to him. Wow! Whistled Naruto as he saw the explosion caused by the fire. You ladies came pretty fast and almost got me with that fire. TCH, muttered Ubaluna as she saw that fire missed him. Looks like he is more competent than I thought he would be. Isabella, you will charge straight towards him while Carlamine and Cyrus flank him from. Will support you guys from the sides while me and Revel-sama will attack him from the sides as well. Hi, said the ladies while Revel just looked at Naruto. Can we even defeat him? Okawa-sama said he is super strong and I don't want to fight him, thought Revel as she moved to the sides with Ubaluna and Mihae. Go, commanded Ubaluna as they started their attack on Naruto. Naruto noticed after the explosion caused by the fire spell that a person was charging straight towards him, while 2 were flanking him on the sides and 3 of them were off to the side. Several fireballs were also headed his way, momentarily distracting him from the presence of Isabella, Cyrus, and Carlamine. Perfect, thought Ubaluna, he is distracted by our spells, giving Isabella, Cyrus, and Carlamine the best opportunity to defeat him. Thinking that the game was already over because of him being distracted, Ubaluna lowered her guard, happy that their plan was going to work. You thought your plan would work? Whispered a voice behind her. Eyes widened, Ubaluna turned her head to see a smirking Naruto behind her and she suddenly felt a sharp object against her neck. Turning her head back towards where he originally was, she noticed that Isabella, Cyrus, and Carlomagné were indeed attacking Naruto, so how was he behind her as well? Revel and Mahai were too engrossed in the fight to even see that Ubaluna was in the hands of the enemy. I have tactics too, you know. I wouldn't just carelessly distract myself by such weak magic and not notice the 3 women attacking me, you know. You also might be wondering how there are 2 of me right now, right, judging from your surprise, whispered Naruto. That over there is a clone of myself. Look over towards your 2 companions over here. Ubaluna's eyes widened even more to see that both Mahai and Revel were unconscious by 2 more Naruto clones. How? Muttered Ubaluna as she didn't even see the 2 clones appear. The moment you let your guard down was the time I was able to strike you 3, whispered Naruto. Don't worry. You ladies are just going to be out of this match and I'm going to have a nice chat with your master. Our Riser-sama will never lose to the likes of you, weakly said Ubaluna as the sharp object pressed deeper against her neck. Ha, if you ladies are at this current power, then your master must also be a joke. Say, do you ladies even train? All he got was silence from Ubaluna. I thought so. I wonder how Ojoyu-chan even lost to you if you're this weak. It's kind of pathetic. Now, you have 2 options. Retire right now with the other 2 unconscious ladies, or fight and try to land a hit on me, stated Naruto. Ubaluna looked towards the 3 members fighting the clone of Naruto and saw how futile it was to kill him and looked back towards the 2 unconscious ladies beside her. I'm sorry Riser-sama, but this is end for us. Thought Ubaluna before I retire. Naruto let go of her as she went towards the unconscious forms of Mahai and Revel and picked them both up. The 3 of them disappeared and an announcement was made. Riser's queen and 2 bishops have retired. Isabella, Cyrus, and Carlomagné turned their heads back towards where the original Naruto was to find that the announcement was actually true. How is that bastard over there when he is over here, they thought. Boss is too strong for you ladies to defeat, so you might as well retire now, said clone Naruto as he stopped attacking the 3 of them for them to decide on what to do. Isabella, Cyrus, and Carlomagné were too shocked to even comprehend what the clone Naruto just said. Their strongest member was already out of the game and they were the last 3 remaining peerage members for Riser. Getting out of her stupor, Isabella whispered to Cyrus and Carlomagné, what should we do? Ubaluna and Revel-sama already retired. Should we just retire? If this guy can take in both of them out, what chance do we have? We have to fight for Riser-sama, so I am not going to retire, whispered Cyrus with Carlomagné nodding with her. With their mind made up already, Cyrus just sighed and nodded her head. Okay, I will distract him while you 2 attack him at the same time, said Cyrus as the other 2 nodded. Okay, you ladies ready to retire yet? Said Naruto as the clone poofed out of existence. Yes, I will retire, said Isabella as she walked towards him, making Naruto smile. Great, now just get the other 2. Just as Naruto was about to continue talking, he felt the 2 knights coming at him from both sides. Activating his Rinne Sharingan, Naruto said, sleep, and before Cyrus and Carlomagné could slash at him, they both fell down towards the ground. So, what will you do now? Will you continue to play games with me or will you retire? Questioned Naruto as his Rinne Sharingan was still active, scaring Isabella at the prospect of falling to the ground like Cyrus and Carlomagné. I will retire, screeched Isabella as Naruto picked up Cyrus and Carlomagné and threw them over the Isabella. Riser's 2 knights and 1 rook has retired. With Riser's 2 knights and 1 rook has retired. The chair that Riser was sitting on burned to a crisp as he started to walk out of the door. Slowly, the entire house burned to flames as he walked out. Anger was displayed on Riser's face as his body was covered in flames. That commoner piece of shit, muttered Riser as he glared at the forest ahead of him. Looks like I have to take care of that mongrel myself, he said as he darted into the forest, trees burning up as he passed by. Wow, he must be angry, whistled Naruto as he noticed a large presence coming his way, heat intensifying as it came towards him. At least he is stronger than the rest of his peerage, or else that would have been an embarrassment. You commoner filth, shouted Riser as he appeared and slammed into Naruto. Fire erupted all around them as Riser continuously punched Naruto. Fucking die, die die die, he continuously shouted. Stepping back from Naruto, Riser released his wings and flew into the sky. Die you pest. shouted Riser from the sky as he launched a huge fireball towards Naruto, causing a loud explosion within the area. Boom! The trees within the area disappeared and all that was left was a crater. With smoke surrounding the area. There were no signs of Naruto anywhere as the smoke caused by Riser's fireball clouded the area, preventing anything from being seen. Ha, panted Riser as the continuous assault and fireball drained him of his energy. That trash should be down right now. As he slowly landed back on the ground, in front of the crater. Clap, 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 clap. Clapping was heard from within the smoke, and as soon as the smoke slowly dissipated, all that showed was Naruto standing in the center of the crater, uninjured and clapping. Wow, oh wow. That was pretty good, Yakitori-san, but not good enough, said Naruto as he slowly walked out of the crater to Riser. Suddenly, Naruto appeared in front of Riser and punched him, sending him flying towards the trees. Ack! Screamed Riser as the punch sent him straight towards a tree. Blood spilled out of his mouth, as he was in a daze about what just happened. You fucking cheating bastard. There is no way you can be stronger than Riser, shouted Riser as he tried to get back up on his feet. I am immortal, you cannot defeat me. Looks like his energy is depleted. Was that all the energy he had? He is either weak or has more power in him, thought Naruto as he looked at Riser and saw his weakened state. What would happen if I made him angry? Thought Naruto as he smirked at Riser. Oh Yakitori-san. Look at this, said Naruto as he activated his Rinne Sharingan. As Riser looked at Naruto, he was immediately trapped in an illusion and what he saw was his mother and sister being tortured by Naruto. Riser, Ni-sama, sobbed Raven and Revel as their eyes dulled from the torture Naruto was giving to them. They were currently stripped, getting sliced piece by piece then reforming thanks to their phoenix powers. Stop this, screamed Riser as he continued to see his mother and sister being tortured by Naruto. You fucking monster, he screamed at Naruto as said person continued to smirk at Riser. Outside the illusion, what is Riser doing? Questioned Rias as she noticed, as with the rest of the devils in the booth that Riser was on the floor, screaming at Naruto to stop. But nothing was happening that the other devils took it as all that was happening was Riser on the floor screaming while Naruto was watching. Raven and Revel were not being tortured either. Naruto casted an illusion, said Raven as the younger devils turned their heads toward her. How did he cast an illusion that quickly? I didn't even see him cast anything to put Riser in an illusion, said Rias as she was confused by how Naruto did it. Like I said before Rias, that power comes from his eyes, stated Venelana as Rias looked to her mother, finding her to be completely serious about it. Sighing, Rias turned her head back to the game to see that Naruto's eyes changed from his usual blue to blood red with circular lines and black dots. If I can't even beat Riser in a rating game and Naruto is making it look like nothing, then what can I achieve? Thought Rias. Back with Riser and Naruto. Stop, just stop this, muttered Riser as rage started to build up within him once again. Ho, why should I stop doing this? What are you going to do about it, Yakitori-san? Said Naruto as he crossed his arms over his chest and looked towards Riser. Good, keep it up, thought Naruto as he felt the anger roll off of Riser as he slowly stood up. You piece of shit, said Riser as he slowly got up. A red aura started to form around Riser as he looked at Naruto, a look of pure rage was etched across his face. The power that Riser was emitting was growing by the second, the fatigue that once plagued his body was now replaced with something else. In the blink of an eye, Riser was in front of Naruto and a fist was connected with Naruto's face, sending him backwards towards the trees. Gah! Shouted Naruto as blood came out of his mouth. His strength suddenly became insane, said Naruto as a look of pure excitement was etched across his face. Before he could do anything else, Riser was once again in front of Naruto, hands encased in flames. He slammed his hands in between Naruto's head all the while shouting, Phoenix Rage, throwing Naruto across the field towards more trees. In the Gremory, Phoenix booth, Naruto, shouted Rias as she looked at the scene, worried that Naruto was going to die because of Riser. How did Riser suddenly get so strong? He looked worn out just a few minutes ago. There is no way he could be cheating, so what happened to him? Shouted Rias as she looked in the direction of Venelana, Raven, and Graphia. That's Phoenix Rage, said Raven as she looked at what was going on. Riser was continuously punching Naruto with his flames, giving him no opportunity to fight back. That form is only used when a phoenix's anger reaches its maximum, said Raven worriedly as she looked at her son. The problem with this form is that it takes a huge toll on the user after it ends, meaning that once Riser is out of the form, it could take a long time for him to recover. How strong is this, Phoenix Rage? Asked Akano as she looked at the fight. Worry was etched across her face as it looked at the moment that Naruto was losing and Riser had the upper hand. It depends on the base power of each individual, but since Riser is a little more powerful than your average high-class devil, with Phoenix Rage activated, he currently could be at the level of a low ultimate class devil, said Raviol, shocking Rias and her peerage. Naruto-san is going to die at this rate then. We have to end the game, shouted Rias as she became increasingly worried at Naruto not being able to do anything against Riser's attacks. Ma, calm down Rias. Naruto is going to be okay, I think, said Zeoticus, only to be smacked on the back of his head by Venelana. This only served to make Rias worry even more. Her freedom was on the line here and this was no time for jokes. Rias is worried and you think it's funny to joke right now? Scolded Venelana to Zeoticus as he comically put his head down in shame. Don't worry Rias, Naruto is strong and won't lose to him, soothed Venelana as Rias slightly calmed down by her mother's soothing words. Please be okay Naruto, prayed Rias as she hoped he could retaliate. With Naruto and Riser, ha, panted Riser as Phoenix Rage was slowly leaving his body. Cough, those were some hard-punched spit, said Naruto as he spit some blood out of his mouth. The current state of his body was battered and bruised as he emerged from the trees, walking towards Riser. Naruto's body suddenly started to heal at a rapid pace, leaving no trace of any sort of bruising from Riser, except for his clothes. Too bad Riser, but I also have a fast healing factor as well, smirked Naruto as his smirk widened at seeing Riser's shocked face. How are you so strong? Shouted Riser as he started to use his last remaining energy to use his ultimate attack on Naruto. Still have some fight left in you You almost did a number on me too if you were just a little bit stronger, said Naruto as he watched Riser form his attack. Grr, grunted Riser as his energy was quickly draining from charging his attack. You're gonna die by this attack, muttered Riser as the ball of flame grew in size, stopping at the size of a basketball. The ball of flame was small, but was very dense, formed by Phoenix Rage, making it even stronger than usual. Using his last bit of strength, Riser quickly rushed towards Naruto, catching him off guard by the fact that he still could run. Riser slammed the ball of fire into Naruto. Phoenix Flame, shouted Riser as the ball of flame slammed into Naruto, causing a huge explosion. Sorry Riser, said a voice within the flames. It's over, as Naruto still had his Rinne Sharingan activated and snapped his fingers. All of the fire around the two quickly got sucked in by Naruto and all that was left was the occasional burning of trees around them. All Riser could do was kneel down on the ground, horrified by what just happened. That was my strongest attack too, thought Riser as he looked at the uninjured form of Naruto. Naruto suddenly appeared before Riser and whispered in his ear saying, "Get stronger and stop ruining other people's lives or else I will end you." Then channeled chakra to his fist and punched Riser on the face, effectively knocking him out, both from the power and from exhaustion. Riser has retired. Naruto Uzumaki wins. Naruto looked up towards the Gremory Phoenix booth and found his eyes looking at Rias's teary-eyed one. Smiling softly, Naruto said, "I won Ojoyu-chan. You're free now and your wish has been granted." With that, Naruto got teleported out of the arena and effectively ended the marriage between Rias Gremory and Riser Phoenix. Breathed out Naruto as he stepped out of the teleportation spell and started to open the door to exit the raiding game area. Aimlessly walking down the hall looking towards the floor, Naruto was in deep of thought. This marriage is something I would expect from the old Satan faction, not from the new one. Zeoticus, Venelana, and Searzex are going to have to explain this and how Raviol and Raven agreed to such an outrageous proposal. I guess I can't blame them too much since Rias did wake me up after all, thought Naruto as he continuously walked down the hallway, until he bumped into someone. "Oh sorry," said Naruto as he snapped out of his thoughts to look up at who he bumped into. Suddenly, before Naruto could see who the person was, the person suddenly hugged him in a tight embrace. "Ah," said Naruto as he realized who it was. "You okay Ojoyu-chan?" said Naruto as said person nodded her head against his chest. "Thank you so much for ending this marriage for me Naruto," muffled Rias as Naruto raised his eyebrow at the non-usage of an honorific. "It was no problem at all. I did after all give you that one wish and you used it, waking me up from my long slumber as well, so I should thank you once again. But, I must ask you one thing. Why would you use the wish on someone so weak? He shouldn't really give someone from the Gremory family much of a problem. His peerage doesn't even practice as well," said Naruto as he looked down towards Rias questioningly as she further turned her down, unable to look at Naruto. "Do you and your peerage practice?" asked Naruto as Rias tentatively shook her head for a no. Naruto gently pushed Rias away from him and said, "This is a problem because there are millions of other people who are stronger than Riser and if you can't even defeat him, then I don't know if you can even protect yourself and your peerage if you were ever in trouble," bluntly said Naruto as Rias looked down in shame. "Yeah," whispered Rias as tears started to come up in her eyes, ashamed at how weak she was at the moment. "Rias," said Naruto as she looked up him, tears still in her eyes, threatening to fall down. "Don't worry about how strong you were during your match because you are still young. You have plenty of time to get stronger, but I advise you to start training as soon as possible," said Naruto softly as Rias nodded her head at the option. Looking into Naruto's eyes, Rias felt a series of emotions bubble up within her as she questioned how she felt about the blonde. "Do I like him just as a friend or as something else? What is this strange feeling I get from him? I should just focus on getting stronger than worrying about this feeling right now," thought Rias as those thoughts were quickly pushed to the side. "I can't thank you enough for this," whispered Rias. "Let's just go find your parents and your brother because they some explaining to do," said Naruto as Rias nodded her head. With that said, Naruto and Rias walked down the hall in silence, currently walking to meet up with her parents, brother, and peerage. Naruto was going to get some answers out of them one way or another. "They're in the living room right now. Follow me," said Rias as Naruto led her around the mansion aimlessly, searching for them until she told him where they were. "Ah, is that so? My sensory is really bad, right?" muttered Naruto as he was depressed at his inability to find devils with large energy signatures. "I really need to practice and get into shape again," muttered Naruto as he followed Rias to where they were all waiting. "We've arrived," said Rias as she opened the doors to the living to find Venelana, Zeoticus, Raven, Raviel, Circex, Graphia and her peerage. "Ah, you two have finally arrived. We have been waiting for quite some time," said Circex as he welcomed both of them as they entered. "Che," said Naruto as he looked to the side, ignoring everyone else's present, finding the wall to be more interesting than anyone at the moment. Why are you angry?" stuttered Circex as he was confused as to why Naruto was suddenly ignoring. There wasn't anything going on at the moment, so there shouldn't be any reason as to why he was angry. "Why did you allow Rias to get put into an engagement that she didn't want? Didn't I teach you better than to act like the old Satan faction?" scolded Naruto as he turned his head away from the wall and glared at Circex, who in turn started to sweat at his glare. When Naruto gets angry, he really gets angry. "I couldn't do anything about it because since I'm the new Lucifer, I'm no longer the head of the Gremory household and if I tried to act upon, the elders would have tried to accuse me of favoritism," said Circex. "If he tried to prevent the marriage between Rias and Riser, then it would cause trouble within the devil community to see that their leader will show favorites instead of being impartial." "Are you stupid?" said Naruto incredulously as Rias and her peerage were shocked at Naruto for insulting Circex. He was insulting the current Lucifer. Meanwhile, Zeoticus, Venelana, Raviel, and Raven were a little ashamed as they were the ones who caused this mess. Graphia just shook her head and sighed as she knew what Naruto was going to say next. "You're supposed to be the strongest devil in the underworld and you're afraid of some old geezers? If something wrong happens in the community then you're supposed to fix it, including this marriage," said Naruto as he pinched the bridge of his nose, tired of politics. Aha. Yes, I'll keep that in mind the next time the elders try to take charge of something," said Circex as he sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. "Now that that is out of the way," said Naruto as he turned his head away from Circex towards Zeoticus, Raviel, Venelana, and Raven. What were you four thinking when you created the marriage between Riser and Rias? Questioned Naruto as he folded his arms and tapped his finger against his arm, annoyed that it was even created in the first place. His glare further made the four devils nervous under it. We were acting selfishly upon the prospect of joining the two families together, so we didn't think of the feelings toward our daughter Naruto-kun, said Zeoticus as Venelana nodded her head. There was a lot to be gained out of this. We thought everyone would gain something off of this, said Venelana. We are at fault too, said Raviel as Raven nodded. We should have noticed how Riser was acting at the time of the proposal and throughout the years as his arrogance increased tremendously. I, along with Raven, didn't know that young Rias was so adamant about not being married to Riser, so I'm sorry for that, said Raviel. I'm sorry about that too, Rias, said Raven as Rias accepted their apologies. I accept your apologies, Lord Phoenix and Lady Phoenix, said Rias as she turned her head towards Naruto, but I don't understand what is going on here. Why is Naruto scolding you for? Aren't you four older than him, as well as Onisama? Questioned Rias as she looked towards said mentioned devils. Ha 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 ha, do you hear that? I'm younger than you four. You understand Yuji-chans and Ba-chans, laughed Naruto as he pointed his finger at the four of them. Zeoticus and Raviel just laughed at what Naruto said, not taking him seriously. However, Venelana and Raven took it more seriously and started to get irritated the moment age was brought up. Naruto, eerily muttered both Venelana and Raven as they slowly got up, eyes shadowed as they slowly walked towards Naruto, who in turn walked backwards, suddenly afraid of the women. Ito, I'm not way younger than you fine ladies. I was just joking around. Yeah, I was joking around, said Naruto as he chuckled nervously. Venelana and Raven didn't stop their strides as they continued walking towards him. Two hands suddenly gripped Naruto's head as Naruto tried, and failed, to take the hands off of his head. OW, shouted Naruto as the two hands lifted him into the air. The strength of an angry woman was incredible. Kami-sama, I pray to get out of this in one piece, thought Naruto as he failed to get rid of the two women's hands. Naruto, please stop misleading people and don't lie or else you will face the consequences, said Venelana as she didn't stop holding his head. Are you younger than us or older? Stated Raven as her smile was curved upward, expecting Naruto to make the right answer or else. I'm older. I am older than you two beautiful ladies. You are both super young. Forgive me for being so wrong, shouted Naruto as the two ladies finally let go of his head. Meanwhile, the younger devils were just dumbfounded by what just played out between Naruto and the two mothers. What just happened and what was this interaction? Naruto is older than Venelana and Raven? Naruto, you're older than Okawa-sama? Aren't you the same age as us? Questioned Rias as she was shocked that Naruto was older than Venelana. This means that Naruto is older than 400 years old. I'm older than everyone here, so yeah, I'm the OG-san, said Naruto as he chuckled sheepishly. I'm immortal, so I manipulate how I look, just like the rest of the devils here. If you're immortal, then when did you meet Okawa-sama, Odo-sama, Raviel and Raven-sama? I'm missing something because they all seem to know you and I don't, said Rias as she started to question Naruto. I guess it's time to talk about how I met everyone here, huh? I'm guessing you have a lot of questions about me, my powers, and how I met your family, chuckled Naruto as Rias nodded her head vigorously, eager of finding out since the rating game. Without Naruto, I don't even think we would have been here right now. The underworld would have been a completely different place without him, added in Sirzex as Naruto bashfully rubbed the back of his head. I didn't really do much. It was you guys who did most of the work. I just came in the end to help you guys out, stated Naruto. Moo, what are you guys even talking about? Stop being so vague and tell me what happened that would have changed the underworld without Naruto and how he met you four, shouted Rias at Sirzex as he chuckled at her. Ma Ria-tan, no need to be so angry. After all, I'm sure Naruto was just about to tell you everything anyways. After all, he is the best person to tell the story since he can show it instead of just talking, said Sirzex as Rias quickly turned to Naruto, who flinched under her gleaming eye. Well, Naruto? Hurry up and tell me, shouted Rias. Hi. Well, before I show everyone the memories of the past, I'll tell you that I met your parents, Sirzex and the Phoenix, during the middle of the Devil Civil War. Even Graphia as well, said Naruto as Rias gaped at what he just said. This meant that without Naruto, the outcome of the war would have been completely different. Would I even be alive without Naruto? Would the anti-Satan faction even win without him? Thought Rias as she quickly jumped to conclusions that Naruto was always on the side of the devils. Hummed Naruto as he moved closer to Rias, who was still in thought about Naruto's affiliation during the war. Before you jump to any conclusions, I was not affiliated with the old Satan faction devils when I met them, nor was I throughout the entire war. I was on the side of the anti-Satan faction, said Naruto as Rias was shocked at how he knew what she was thinking. How did you know that? Said Rias, shocked at how Naruto knew what she was thinking. Don't worry about that right now. I'll just let you know that I helped throughout the entirety of the war and helped you guys. Stated Naruto. He puffed his chest out in pride, feeling prideful at being so important during the war and doing so much, even though he didn't say anything about being so awesome. Venalana and Raven, who were still standing by Naruto's side, pinched his cheeks on both sides, knowing that Naruto wanted to show off. Oh wow, what did I do? Shouted Naruto as his cheeks were still being pinched. Stop trying to act so. I know that you want to show how awesome you're, said as she said awesome with heavy sarcasm. Raven giggled as she saw the face Naruto was making and let go of his cheek, as did Venalana. So mean, muttered Naruto as he hung his head down in depression at being so called out so quickly. His awesomeness was not to be played with. Just hurry up and show me your memories, said Rias as she grew tired of waiting and wanted to know what happened during the Devil Civil War already. This guy was flirting around with her mother and the Phoenix and she was getting annoyed by it. What's this feeling I'm getting in my chest? It kind of hurts, thought Rias as she felt a burning feeling. Was this jealousy or something else? Okay, it's time to show the memories of my awesomeness, shouted Naruto, already out of his depressed states, standing tall and proud of his accomplishments in the past. Venalana and Raven just sighed at how he always focused on his awesomeness while Zeoticus, Raviel, and Sirzex laughed at Naruto's actions. Everyone gather in the center so I can show all of you the memories, stated Naruto as he quickly started to focus. Everyone in the room got to the middle of the room and waited for Naruto to finish and tell them what to do next. Now everyone close your eyes and immediately, you will see the events unfold, said Naruto calmly as they did what he said and closed his eyes. Naruto focused his chakra and pulsed it towards the middle of the room, where the rest of the devils were. The devils in the middle of the room felt the pulse of chakra and slowly, their minds started to drift away. Suddenly, in each of their minds they saw the beginning of the introduction between Naruto, Zeoticus, Venalana, Raviel, and Raven during the Devil Civil War. Memory introduction. Middle of the Devil Civil War. Shit, cursed Zeoticus as he, Raviel, Venalana, Raven and few other devils were gathered in a tent. Zeoticus was currently dressed in a dark red military outfit with black combat boots, short red hair, and a goatee. What are we going to do? Some of our forces got flanked by the enemy devils and our numbers are slowly losing, said Venalana, worried by what was currently happening. Venalana was wearing a combat bodysuit that hugged her curves nicely, hair in a ponytail and dark red boots. She did not want to lose the war and didn't want any more devils to die because of this war. We need to retreat or else more of our forces will fall. We should gather Sirzex, Seraphal, Falbium, and Ajuka here to discuss more on what to do, said Raviel as he was in a dark orange military combat suit with short blonde hair and black combat boots. We need to see if any more of our forces are getting attacked as well or else we can't bring the four over here to discuss more, calmly stated Raven as she, like Venalana, was dressed in a bodysuit that hugged her curves nicely with black combat boots. Her blonde hair was in a braid draped over her shoulder. Bring all of the injured devils to me so I can heal them as fast as possible, said another devil. Dressed in a light blue combat suit, with black hair and glasses was Steven Cetri, current head of the Cetri clan. I'll help to bring the injured devils over here, along with Venalana and Raven, said another devil. Also dressed in a light blue bodysuit that hugged her curves nicely was a woman with long black hair and glasses. Her name is Serena Cetri, wife of Steven Cetri. The other devils in the room nodded their heads at the plan given to them. The priority at the moment was the retreat and save any injured devils on the battlefield to regain some of their force. Good, I'll tell Sirzex right now so he and the other three can come here to discuss more. Let's go, stated Zeoticus as the rest of the devils nodded and left. With Sears X, everyone retreat, shouted Sears X as he was currently fighting some of the devils from the old Satan faction. They were currently fighting in a forest where a cave was located within a mountain. Be gone, shouted Sears X as he blasted a few devils with the power of destruction, clearing the area for the devils of the anti-Satan to retreat. Go go go, shouted Sears X as the devils quickly left to go back to base. Before Sears X could go with them, he was blasted by some energy, sending him flying towards a cave by a mountain. Gah! Gasped Sears X as he went deep into the cave, crashing at a wall, causing a rumble within the cave. Suddenly, the cave collapsed in front of him because of the shockwave caused by his hard crash. Light quickly left the cave and Sears X was trapped. Shit, cursed Sears X as he didn't see any light coming from outside the cave. Looking around, he noticed that the cave went deeper inside and a faint glow was emanating from deep within it. Curious about what that light is, Sears X started to make his way deeper inside the cave and saw that the light that was emanating from within the cave were blue flowers that gave off a faint glow and a tombstone was in the middle. Here lies Naruto Uzumaki, the master of awesomeness and power, said Sears X as he sweat dropped at what the description said. This was either something fake or the person who created the tomb was incredibly stupid. Huh? Questioned Sears X as something just appeared before him, and what appeared was a piece of paper. You have located my sanctuary. Never reveal the location of my sanctuary and you will be rewarded with a wish. If you want to use your wish now, shout, Naruto Uzumaki, rise, and I shall come. If you ever reveal the location of my sanctuary, then you will die as a result. Read Sears X as he read the consequences and reward. Sears X deeply thought about the wish and noticed that this Naruto Uzumaki could help him win the Devil Civil War. All I had to do is not reveal the location of this sanctuary and I should be good. But wouldn't other devils have gone inside already? This seems too good to be true, thought Sears X as he was skeptical about it. Trying it out for the sake of winning the war, Sears X shouted out Naruto's name. Naruto Uzumaki, rise, shouted Sears X as he read the chant from the paper. At first nothing happened, making Sears X sigh at the supposed wish that this Naruto Uzumaki was going to grant him, but after a few moments, a bright light emanated, blinding Sears X, forcing him to close his eyes. After a few moments after the bright light, Sears X opened his eyes and saw that a man, roughly the same height as him with bright blonde hair and electric blue eyes was facing him. Sears X noticed the man had a forehead protector on him and was dressed in a long red garb with sandals. Are you Naruto Uzumaki? Questioned Sears X as the newly introduced person nodded his head, staring intently at Sears X, making the latter sweat slightly at the intense gaze. Yes, I am. I see that you have found my sanctuary. Congratulations, you are the first one to do so in a century, so that must mean that you are strong, stated Naruto, impressed that someone has finally been able to find his resting spot in a century. Time really does become insignificant when you become immortal, so 1 century wasn't that all spectacular for him. How am I the first one to find this place in a century? Shouldn't this place have been easy to spot because of the fact that it's in a cave? Any devil could have already went in the cave to spot this, so how am I the first? Spouted off Sears X as he was greatly confused by Naruto's statement. Calm down, you idiot, said Naruto as he grew irritated by Sears X's questions. No normal devil could see this sanctuary because it is covered in an illusion that only the strongest can identify. If any weak being were to enter this cave, they would only wander deeper into the cave, not being able to see the tomb or flowers, said Naruto as he pointed towards the tomb and blue flowers that emanated a faint glow. So, what wish do you wish to make for me to grant? I will be able to grant you 1 wish of your desire, said Naruto as he stared intently at Sears X, waiting for an answer to be given to him so he could quickly grant him. Well, you see, said Sears X as he stared back at Naruto, I currently need help right now. There is a devil civil war going on at the moment between those who support the old Satans, Lucifer, Asmodeus, Beelzebub, and Leviathan, while there is the opposing side who wants to get rid of the old Satan ways. I am in the anti-Satan faction and right now we are losing. Please help end this war and defeat the anti-Satan faction, shouted Sears X as he bowed to Naruto, hoping that he would grant his wish. Rise up, said Naruto as he didn't know his name. Sirzek's Gremory, stated Sirzek's, head still down on the ground. Rise up, Sirzek's Gremory. I shall grant you your wish. It is a pretty selfless wish that you desire. Are you sure that this is the wish that you want to be granted and not anything else like more power, fame, or money? Questioned Naruto as Sirzek shook his head at all those suggestions. No, I wish for the anti-Satan faction to win this war and to change the ways of the devil community. I want there to be change within the devil community, and the first step towards doing so is to defeat the old Satan faction, said Sirzek, strong on his belief. Okay, I shall help you win this war and change the fate of the devil community, said Naruto, feeling a sense of nostalgia at what Sirzek said, reminding him of when he was younger and aspired to do something similar. Take me to them now and I shall eliminate them all, said Naruto as Sirzek shook his head. First, we had to go to my parents. They called me to group back up to think of a strategy. After we do that, then we will strike at the enemy, said Sirzek as Naruto nodded at what he said. Let's get out of here now. Before Sirzek could go back towards the entrance of the cave, a large blast landed on the side of the cave, effectively creating an opening to the outside. Let's go, said Naruto as he went towards the path that he blew up towards the outside, while Sirzek could only stare at what he just did, amazed at his power. I couldn't even sense him charge up his power to create such a large explosion. How strong can this guy be? Thought Sirzek as they left the cave. So where is this base of yours where the rest of your people will meet up? Questioned Naruto as Sirzek told him the location. Close your eyes and picture the place, suddenly said Naruto as Sirzek looked skeptical at what Naruto was going to do to him. Don't worry about me trying to do something to you. I'll just get to the location a little faster, said Naruto, giving Sirzek the first smile since the time he met him. Sirzek nodded his head, slightly reassured that nothing was going to happen to him, but still a little skeptical. With the signal of approval, Naruto put his hand on Sirzek and together, they instantly disappeared, out of sight from where they previously were. Whoa, said Sirzek as he felt lightheaded at what just happened and fell on the ground, confused at what happened to them. Suddenly, Sirzek noticed that he was in a tent, surrounded by Zeoticus, Venelana, Raviol, Raven, Serena, Steven, Seraphol, Falbium, Abuja, and several other devils. Next to him was Naruto, who stood tall. As the devils were shocked that Sirzek quickly appeared before their eyes, they instantly went on guard the moment they saw Naruto next to Sirzek. Who are you and what are you doing with Sirzek? Questioned Zeoticus as he prepared to fight back if Naruto would attack. I am simply but a human helping on behalf of Sirzek. I will help end this war between your side and the opposing side, said Naruto as Sirzek got up and nodded. That's right, Naruto is going to help us to win the war. He is incredibly strong and can do us a great help, said Sirzek as the devils slowly looked around towards each other and nodded, trusting Sirzek's word. Alright, if you say so. We will trust you, said Venelana. Naruto looked towards Venelana, staring intently at her for a moment before doing the same towards Raven and Serena. You have some beautiful sisters there, Sirzek. Are most female devils this good looking or something? Said Naruto towards Sirzek as he pointed towards the three women. Sirzek laughed at Naruto as Naruto was confused at why he was laughing at him. The three women blushed at being called beautiful as no devil ever openly said that they were and were too afraid to do so. Those are not my sisters. The brunette is my mother. The blonde is Lady Phoenix and the black-haired woman is Lady Seatree. Wheezed Sirzek as he tried to regain his breath. Ah, forgive my rudeness and ignorance, said Naruto as he appeared in from the three of them and kneeled down in front of each of them. He kissed the back of their hand as a form of apology. Venelana, Raven, and Serena once again blushed at the action that Naruto has done because no one ever had the guts to do it to them. It's okay, stuttered Raven as she inwardly cursed for stuttering in front of a person she just met. Oi, stop flirting with my mom, said Sirzek with Seraphol adding yeah, in the back. Naruto, hearing Seraphol's voice, turned towards her, ignoring Sirzek's remark and went towards her. I'm sorry for ignoring you, miss. Your name? Questioned Naruto as he held Seraphol's hand within his and also kissed hers, causing her to blush brightly at his gesture. It's okay. I don't really mind, stuttered Seraphol as she quickly let go of her hand from Naruto's and looked down, embarrassed at blushing because of a stranger, but also because of how handsome he was. Ha 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 ha, you ladies are funny, laughed Naruto as he saw all of the ladies' reactions. I couldn't contain myself, he laughed as he moved away back towards Circex, who sighed at what just happened. Venelana, Raven, and Serena all seethed in rage at Naruto teasing them. They thought he was a gentleman, but it looks like he is an idiot. Naruto-san, muttered the three ladies as a dangerous aura shrouded the three of them. Hair flying wildly, Naruto saw flashbacks of a certain red-headed mom doing that as well. Please come here, they slowly said as all Naruto could do was nod. One beating later. You are not to play with a woman's heart like that, you hear me, young man, said Venelana as all Naruto could do was nod as his eyes and mouth were bruised up from the beating he received. Hi, said Naruto as everyone else in the room sweat dropped at what just happened. I think he is older than everyone here, interjected Circex as every devil looked at him in surprise at his declaration. Nonsense, that boy looks just the same age as you, if not younger, said Raviel as they nodded with his claim. I'm actually around 500 years old? I forgot, as time doesn't really matter to me since I'm immortal, said Naruto sheepishly, quickly recovered as if the bruises never appeared in the first place. Said everyone else as they were shocked by his age. This guy was really old, even for devil standards, and he only looked about 18 in front of them. Nothing happened for a solid minute as everyone was thinking about Naruto's age. Alright, let's get down to business. We can have more fun later, said Naruto as he winked at Venelana, Raven, Serena, and Seraphol at the innuendo, causing the four of them to blush at the implication. Cough. Yes, of course, said Zeoticus as they all quickly moved towards the round table in the center of the tent. The anti-Satan faction is currently surrounding us on all sides and will keep on advancing at this rate since we have retreated, he said as he pointed on the map where the anti-Satan faction took over. We need to quickly gather our forces and use brute force towards the west and east so we can pincer them. Circex, you will go with Naruto-san and Ajuka west while Seraphol and Falbium will east. Hi, they said as they quickly left towards their respective destinations, confident in destroying the old Satan faction. After the four young devils and one immortal left, Zeoticus instructed Venelana, Raven, and Serena to continue getting injured devils from the battlefield to bring to Steven, while him and Raviel went up north to stall time. Raviel and I will try to delay the forces north as much as possible while the west and east do their work for the pincer to work, said Zeoticus as everyone left in the tent nodded their heads and started to work. With Naruto, Circex, and Ajuka. Naruto, can you quickly take us over towards west? Just teleport us straight in the defense as their devil signatures are easy to detect, asked Circex as Naruto nodded and told both of them to stand still. Alright, stand still because you will both feel a little bit lightheaded, commanded Naruto as Circex and Ajuka nodded their heads. Naruto put both his hands on their shoulders and concentrated towards the west where a large concentration of energy was located. Naruto found the large concentration of energy and teleported them towards the center of it. West where the large concentration of energy is. We will be by the anti-Satan trash in a few more minutes. Get ready to destroy them, yelled an old Satan faction general as in front of him, approximately 15,000 devils shouted in agreement. Before the general could say something else towards his men, in the center of the army was a sudden explosion, sending all the men around the explosion flying and getting obliterated in the process. What in Lucifer's name is happening? Men, attack, we have intruders in our area, yelled the general as the remaining army that didn't get hurt by the explosion rushed towards it to stop any more damage from happening. Those that rushed towards the explosion were suddenly destroyed by a large beam of dark concentrated energy. The energy from the general's men were being directed towards their own comrades. Power of destruction? Shouted the general as he realized there were a few prominent annoyances in the anti-Satan trash. Circex Gremory, Ajuka Astaroth, shouted the general as the smoke dissipated showing Circex and Ajuka attacking with Naruto watching. How did these trash get here so fast? We should have sensed them coming towards us, but how did they attack the center of my army? Thought the general as he noticed more and more of his men getting destroyed by them. The general had no other option available other than to call in for more reinforcement. Rizavam Sama, I need more reinforcement towards the west. Our army is getting destroyed by anti-Satan trash Sirzek's Gremory and Ajuka Astaroth. There seems to be another devil working with them. Hi Rizavam Sama, she should be capable of defeating them with me here. I will stall for time, said the general as the mental call between the general and Rizavam abruptly ended. Now, muttered the general as more devils were getting destroyed. Attack with all of your might. We are representing the old Satan faction and will not lose to some trash. Go my men and fight till the very last end, shouted the general as the remaining army gained strength from the general and rushed towards the trio. TCH, muttered Sirzek as he and Ajuka continuously attacked devil after devil, stamina slowly draining from him. He looked towards his side to see Ajuka facing the same problem as him as their stamina would eventually run low. Reinforcements would surely arrive and they would have to eventually retreat, so preserving stamina was the utmost importance. Looking behind him, Sirzek noticed Naruto watching them fight, doing nothing. Oi, Naruto, help us fight them. Why are you standing around doing nothing? Shouted Sirzek as Naruto looked at him in a confused manner. Why should I help? Aren't you guys more than able to defeat these weaklings? I mean their general is very weak as well, so this should be pretty easy for you too, said Naruto as Sirzek and Ajuka gained tick marks from his remark. Just help us Yubaka, yelled both Sirzek and Ajuka. There are a lot of them and we have to preserve our stamina for when reinforcement arrives. They are surely to be stronger than these guys, shouted Ajuka as Naruto sighed at their justification. Hi, I'll fight these weaklings and you guys can gain your stamina back. You guys can fight the reinforcements then, said Naruto as he let Sirzek and Ajuka continue fighting until there was a reasonable distance between them and the old Satan faction devils. Watch and learn young devils, for I will show you the ways of my awesomeness, said Naruto in a sage-like manner while Sirzek and Ajuka sweat dropped at his response. Naruto closed his eyes for a brief moment and opened his eyes to reveal that his usual warm electric blue eyes to be ice cold, ready to kill. Gathering chakra, Naruto held up a kunai and shouted, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and over 50 identical versions of Naruto appeared. Attack, said the original Naruto as all the clones vanished and started to obliterate the devils. Wow, muttered Sirzek and Ajuka in shock as they witnessed the massacre of the devils by an army of Narutos. I didn't even sense a large amount of energy come from Naruto and he is already this strong. I wonder what his true power is like if he can do this without breaking a sweat, said Sirzek. Yeah, muttered Ajuka as he balled his fists at what he was witnessing. He needed to get stronger and gain more stamina fast or he would never get anywhere in life. As the old Satan faction army was quickly depleting, the general was shocked at the rate at which it was happening. Who was this random guy and how was he so strong? This makes no sense. How is this trash so strong? I've never even saw him before fighting with the anti-Satan faction, thought the general as he had to stall time for the reinforcement to quickly come. Now Oji-san, I think it's time for you to die, said Naruto as he killed the last remaining devil of the army and turned to face the general of the old Satan faction army. You should just come over here and die a quick death because you're weak, boredly said Naruto as he stared at the general. Grr! Muttered the general angrily as he glared at Naruto, furious at him for severely underestimating him. How dare you think that I will just let you kill me, you mongrel? I will destroy you, shouted the general as he shouted and rushed towards Naruto, forgetting about stalling for time. Reaching Naruto, the general sent a flurry of punches towards Naruto's body, successfully landing all of his punches on him. Concentrating his energy towards his right fist, the general sent a large amount of concentrated power towards Naruto's face, sending him flying away from him. Ha, panted the general as the attacks drained him of his energy. He looked ahead to see that Naruto stopped himself and was standing a few meters away from the general, not moving at all. I must say, you pack quite a punch, said Naruto as he spit blood out of his mouth and started to walk towards the general. I'm sorry for underestimating you, Oji-san, because you're pretty strong. As Naruto continued to walk, all the general could do was look on in shock at what happened. What the fuck just happened? This guy is a monster. I charged most of my power towards my hand and punched him with it and he's not even phased? Before he could continue his thoughts, Naruto appeared directly in front of him and sent a chakra-enhanced fist his way. Gah! shouted the general as he flew backwards and onto the ground. Shit, that fucking hurt, said the general as he struggled to get back up, but only to come crashing back down. Ha ha ha, you think you can get back up? I won't let you, Oji-san, shouted Naruto as he repeatedly stomped on the general's chest, further pushing him deeper into the ground, cracks forming around them. What a sadist, said Ijuka, noticing that Naruto was greatly taking pleasure towards the pain he was inflicting towards the general. He isn't even going to stop anytime soon, is he? Said Ijuka as he looked towards Sirzax. Why yeah, he said as he shouted towards Naruto. Oh oi, Naruto, I think he is already down now. Huh? Said Naruto as he snapped out of his sadistic tyranny and saw the general lying on the ground, barely breathing and badly beaten up. Ah, sorry, said Naruto as he let his sadistic side get the better of him. Well, it looks like someone else showed up, so I guess I just finished just in time, said Naruto as he looked ahead of him. A mysterious figure appeared in the distance, and what slowly showed was a beautiful woman with long silver hair in a braid. She was wearing a tight battle suit that was all black that hugged her voluptuous figure nicely. She had an hourglass figure with shapely hips. Her face was unblemished and the only makeup she wore was bright red lipstick. Her silver eyes stared down Naruto. Get off of the general, you trash, said the mysterious figure as she suddenly appeared in front of Naruto and punched him towards Sirzax and Ijuka. Whoa there, said Sirzax and Ijuka as they broke Naruto's fall that was heading their way. Who is that pretty woman? Said Sirzax as he was mesmerized by her beauty. I believe she is the reinforcement to come help, coughed Naruto as he coughed up blood. Shit, she is pretty strong, plenty times stronger than that so-called general over there, said Naruto as they saw the woman healing the general. Are you all right, sir? Said the woman as she healed the general. Yes, thanks to you. You have saved my life, so I thank you, Graphia, said the general as the now named Graphia nodded her head at the general. Be careful, the blonde-haired man is strong. Possible even stronger than the Gremory or Astaroth, so be warned. I don't know if you can take 3 of them on together. Don't worry about me, just rest and gather your strength, said Graphia as she finished healing the general and stood up, facing the trio. You guys are fighting this one, right? If you need help then I will, but for now I will watch, said Naruto as Ijuka and Sirzax nodded their heads in agreement. They let go of Naruto and walked up towards Graphia, waiting to see her reaction. So you two will be fighting me, huh? Get ready to die, muttered Graphia as her silver eyes flashed a bright red before she rushed. Die in the name of Lucifer, whispered Graphia as she rushed towards Sirzax and Ijuka with the intent of killing them both. Gathering an immense amount of demonic energy, Graphia created several dragons made out of ice. Ice of the devil. Dragon, said Graphia as she commanded the dragons of ice to rush towards Sirzax and Ijuka. Sirzax and Ijuka were not prepared for the female devil to suddenly rush towards them and could only defend themselves from the ongoing attack. As the dragons rushed towards them, Sirzax was barely able to produce some of his power of destruction to destroy the dragons before it could attack him. Ijuka, get behind me fast, yelled Sirzax as Ijuka did what he was told and went behind Sirzax. Luckily, he was able to make it in just before the dragon got to him and Sirzax was able to block the ongoing attacks. Boom! The dragons shattered in a flurry of icicles raining down in the area. All that was seen was an ice cloud surrounding Sirzax and Ijuka with icicles raining down on them. Shit! Cursed Ijuka as he saw that the attacks still kept on coming even though they destroyed it. These ice dragons are a pain in the ass. I will deal with these annoying icicles, said Ijuka as he summoned his magic. Kankara Formula Number 1. Protect, shouted Ijuka as a flurry of equations and formulas appeared above them, guarding against the ongoing icicles. Off to the side with Naruto. These guys should always be prepared for anything, yet they look like complete amateurs, muttered Naruto as he watched Sirzax and Ijuka protect themselves from the attacks made by Graphia. Several stray pieces of ice were making their way towards Naruto, but before it could attack him, they exploded. She is a pretty strong fighter, I'll give her that, and it looks like those ice dragons were just a decoy for the main attack, said Naruto as he watched Graphia continue her rush towards the 2 male devils as they were defending themselves in the cloud of ice. Back with Graphia, Ice of the Devil. Blizzard, said Graphia as a powerful blizzard was created, enhanced with her powerful devil energy to make it even deadlier. Circex and Ajuka couldn't handle the onslaught that Graphia was giving to them as the blizzard and the icicles hurt them every so often. "Shit, her ice really hurts," said Circex as a flurry of ice kept on hitting him, adding on to the layer of demonic energy made it even worse. Circex and Ajuka's clothes were being shredded, giving the ice the chance to directly penetrate their skin. "Circex, we need to retreat a little to regain some control," shouted Ajuka as he realized that they were going to get nowhere with the ice surrounding them. "Let's get out of here." Before Ajuka could finish his sentence, Graphia suddenly made her appearance in front of Ajuka and calmly whispered, "Ice of the devil. Devil's rage." As a magic circle appeared in front of her mouth and a large torrent of ice charged with demonic energy was shot at Ajuka. "Gah!" shouted Ajuka as blood escaped his mouth and sent him flying backwards towards Naruto's direction. "Whoa!" muttered Naruto as he caught Ajuka, who appeared to be okay, except for the blood escaping from his mouth. "You didn't get damaged from her attack, we should have shot a hole through your stomach," said Naruto as Ajuka shakily got back up. "Hey, I managed to create a full-body defense formula that is capable of taking one attack before breaking. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make another one right now as it's in its prototype phase and will take a while to make," said Ajuka as he scraped the blood off his mouth and rushed back to Circex. "With Circex? Guro?" grunted Circex as he was still fighting the blizzard. "How the fuck is this blizzard still going on? Her magic should be draining quickly with this type of spell. This is insane," he said as he continued to struggle to find his way out of the blizzard. Having enough of this annoyance, Circex gathered his power of destruction and blasted it all around him. "Ha!" shouted Circex as he shot the power of destruction in all directions in hopes of destroying all the ice around him. The blizzard started to slowly disappear, making Circex sigh in relief of finally stopping it. "If you think that you stopped my blizzard," said a voice behind him, causing him to snap around, only to find nothing. "Think again," said the voice now in front of him, causing him to see Graphia, who was smirking at Circex. Before Circex could even say a word or fight back against Graphia, she had already summoned her powers. "Ice of the devil. Howling dawn," said Graphia as a light blue orb the size of a ball appeared in front of Graphia and shot towards Circex. As Circex saw the orb coming straight towards him, he noticed that Graphia had already left from where she was standing. "How the fuck did she leave so fast?" thought Circex as he shifted his focus towards the oncoming orb. Quickly gathering his energy, Circex used his power of destruction to try and negate the oncoming orb. "Ruin the extinct," shouted Circex as he shot the condensed power of destruction at the orb, causing the two to collide, ending in him being blown away from the destruction. Like a nuke, everything within the vicinity got annihilated, blowing debris all over the place and creating a large crater from where the two orbs collided. Ajuka, who was rushing towards Circex at the time, quickly moved out of the way towards Naruto, who continued to watch the explosion happen. "Quick, get out of here, Naruto. The explosion is going to reach this area too," shouted Ajuka as he saw Circex flying towards them. Looking around, Ajuka couldn't even spot Graphia within the area or the general, meaning that she probably got him to safety. "You worry too much, Ajuka," lazily said Naruto as he slowly got up and jumped up, catching Circex, who was flying towards them, and created a barrier. "Power of creation. God's barrier," said Naruto as he created a barrier surrounding the three. The explosion quickly made its way towards the three, and as Circex and Ajuka braced for impact, nothing happened. The explosion made its way around the barrier, keeping the three men safe from the explosion. All that was left around them was the small piece of land that they were standing on. Everything else within a mile radius was gone at least a foot deep. "Oh my Lucifer," muttered Circex as he noticed the destruction that happened around them because of the two orbs colliding. "I expected my ruin the extinct to completely stop her orb, but instead, hers was just as powerful as mine, causing the explosion. How strong is she?" said Circex as it was the first time he felt helpless against an enemy devil. "Looks like she is just as strong as both of you, but both of you can defeat her. I don't understand why both of you aren't working together to defeat her. You're allowing her to fight each of you individually," said Naruto as Ajuka and Circex looked at each other before looking back at Naruto. They both were trying to help each other, but with Graphia's abilities unknown to both of them, They didn't know how to approach her. Instead, they both got caught off guard by how strong she was and found her abilities to be quite annoying. Well, we didn't expect her to be so strong and were caught off guard by her abilities, so we had no time to work together," said Ajuka sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his head. Naruto just looked at Ajuka with a deadpanned look. Where is she now, this Graphia woman? Because before the explosion went off, she suddenly disappeared. "The general is gone too," said Sirzex as he looked around the destroyed area. No signs of life was found within the area, only craters and debris all around them. She left to pick up the general and proceeded to take him away from the area, knowing that her attack would cause a large explosion, said Naruto as he scanned the area, activating his Rinnegan to find her and the general. "Man, you guys suck at fighting," said Naruto as Sirzex and Ajuka gained tick marks from his blatant jab at their skills. However, they decided to keep their mouths closed because they knew the difference in their skills. As Naruto continued to scan the area for Graphia and the general, he noticed two signatures that were a few miles away from them, consisting of one strong aura and one weak aura. "Found them," muttered Naruto as he proceeded to turn towards Sirzex and Ajuka. "Both of you hold my shoulders. I found the two already and this time, I will fight her." "I was getting bored anyways," said Naruto as the two nodded and proceeded to hold his shoulder. Instantly the three disappeared, leaving only the small piece of land that they were standing on in the midst of all the destruction. With Graphia and the general. "Why did you save me, Graphia-sama? You don't need to save a weak devil like me," weakly said the general as Graphia gently laid him down on the ground after they escaped the explosions. They were currently in the forest, hiding from everything. "I saved you because you are still part of our faction and I shouldn't leave a comrade behind," said Graphia as she gently smiled at him. "Don't worry and just rest, we still have a long way to go before we get back to Lucifer-sama. I don't intend to fight them anymore because they have strength in numbers." The general nodded at Graphia's response, finding it to make sense. "If we do run into them again, just be wary of the blonde. He is stronger than the two that you have fought. If you do fight him, then I don't think you will make it out alive," whispered the general as he slowly drifted into unconsciousness. As Graphia listened to the advice the general gave her, she noticed while fighting the two devils that the blonde was indeed not fighting her and instead observing from a distance. She noticed that when some of the icicles from her spell were about to land on the blonde, he blocked it with little effort, proving that he was competent and potentially powerful to make it seem like her icicles were nothing. Era, you sure are a strong fighter, Graphia-chan. Do you want to have a fight with me or do you want to surrender?" whispered a voice right next to her. Graphia squeaked in surprise as she was so lost in thought to not notice that someone was next to her. Quickly regaining her composure, Graphia jumped back to further assess who was next to her. The general was still next to the person that she jumped from, and when she looked at who whispered in her ear, Graphia noticed that it was the blonde and the two devils from before. "How did they come here so quickly? I was sure that I hid my presence and went far enough for them not to detect me," thought a shocked Graphia as Naruto waved his arm beckoning her to come back over. "Oi, come back, Graphia-chan, I was just joking about fighting," yelled Naruto as Graphia's eyebrow twitched at the blonde calling her with such an affectionate tone. Who was this guy to be so carefree when they were in the middle of a war zone? Sirzex and Ajuka were no different as they sweat dropped at Naruto's change in behavior when talking to the female devil. Graphia ignored what Naruto was yelling at her and decided that her top priority was to get the general back into her possession so she could escape back to Lucifer. Charging her demonic energy, Graphia started to cast magic spells. "Ice of the Devil, Glacial Rage," uttered Graphia as magic circles appeared on the ground near Naruto, Sirzex, Ajuka, and the general. "Jump away," yelled Sirzex as he and Ajuka jumped from the vicinity of the magic circles, while Naruto just picked up the general and jumped up. As Graphia finishes her magic spell, large glaciers appeared from the ground where the four were previously at. The size of the glaciers were very large and proved to be inefficient in hurting the three, but Graphia had other ideas. "Ice of the Devil, Devil's Rage," shouted Graphia as a magic circle appeared in front of Graphia's mouth, shooting a large torrent of ice as the three were still in the air. "Power of Creation, God's Barrier," said Naruto as a barrier appeared to block the torrent of ice coming their way. Graphia stood shocked at how the blonde easily deflected her magic attack, as it was one of her stronger attacks in her arsenal. Before she could attack any further, Naruto appeared in front of her. "Graphia-chan, you have no chance of winning, and I know that you want your general back, so you should give up, said Naruto in a playful tone before he slammed Graphia into the ground with one hand while holding the general over his shoulder with the other. "Arg!" yelled Graphia as the attack proved to be stronger than she imagined. Blood came out of her mouth as she shakily stood back up in front of Naruto. Quickly gathering her energy, Graphia shot icicles towards Naruto, and knowing that he only had one hand available, she used that opportunity to jump away to gather her senses. "Wow, you're smart and beautiful. What a good combination," said Naruto as Graphia lightly blushed at the compliment, but otherwise brushed it off after. "I guess you're after this guy, right?" said Naruto as he lifted the general to show her his body. Graphia gave no comment about it being her true objective, but with a slight tense of her body, Naruto knew that she was after him. "Bingo," thought Naruto as he knew what he had to do. "I have a deal for you," said Naruto as Graphia gave no comment, but didn't do anything either to show that she was listening. "If you beat me in a battle, then I will surrender and let you have the general while you both can escape," he said, shocking Sirzax and Ajuka at the absurd proposition. If he lost, then they would be the ones at the back foot. "However, if you lose, then you will surrender yourself to me and me alone, so you won't have to worry about the anti-Satan faction killing you. I am not sided with the anti-Satan faction, but merely assisting a devil within it," said Naruto as Graphia pondered at the deal. If she accepted the deal, there was a chance that she would be able to win, and if she didn't win, then she would just be with the blonde, who supposedly wasn't sided with the anti-Satan faction. "How can I trust you to not be sided with the anti-Satan faction, and will those two interfere with our fight?" said Graphia as Naruto shook his head at her. "Those two will not interfere, and I will show you how serious I am about not being sided with the anti-Satan faction," said Naruto as he quickly bit his thumb and drew blood while creating a seal. Chanting a few words, the seal glowed and disappeared. "That seal that I just created is an insurance for you. If I do win and turn you in, then I will die. The only way for the seal to break off is for you to submit to me to show that you don't feel threatened by the prospect. I promise that if I do win, then I will only have you serve me." Graphia, Ajuka, and Sirzax were surprised by how dedicated Naruto was to ensure that Graphia would not die if he were to win the match and to also ensure her escape if she were to win. Graphia couldn't help but feel something swell in her chest when she noticed the dedication the blonde had to ensure that she would not die if he were to win. Feeling compelled to trust the blonde, Graphia decided then. "What is your name?" said Graphia as Naruto grinned at her. "Naruto Uzumaki. I'm sure you will remember it, beautiful," smiled Naruto as he winked at her. "I see. Then Naruto-san, I agree to your terms and will fight you," said Graphia, unfazed by his blatant flattery, as Naruto nodded at her and set the general down to face her. As the two stood across from each other, neither made a move. A long, silent 5 minutes have passed and all Naruto and Graphia have done was stand still. Neither of them have done anything of significance to each other, seemingly frozen in time. With Sirzax and Ajuka, "What are they even doing?" questioned Sirzax as he stood on the sidelines with Ajuka, waiting to see them both fight, but all he saw was them standing still. He thought that they were going to fight, so was he missing something? Ajuka, still focusing his eyes towards Naruto and Graphia, told Sirzax why they were exactly doing that. They are gauging each other's powers to see who will attack first. They both understand that if one of them strikes first, then the other will have the advantage to counter and most likely take control of the entire match. "Everything lies within the first attack," stated Ajuka as his calculated eyes narrowed at the sudden spike of power from Naruto. "Is Naruto going to attack first? I noticed that his energy has sharply increased. Wouldn't that mean that if he attacks first, then Graphia would eventually win?" asked Sirzax as Ajuka sighed at his constant questioning. "Not necessarily. There are many factors to this match. We still don't know who is the more powerful one in this match. It could be Naruto or Graphia, so even if one were to attack first, they could utterly destroy the other one. I was just speculating based on if they were on equal fighting levels," said Ajuka. As he was talking, he noticed the slight change in Naruto's stance, making it seem that he will be striking soon, and looking at Graphia, He noticed that she shifted her stance as well, seemingly understanding Naruto's intentions. With Naruto and Graphia. As Naruto changed his stance, he suddenly rushed towards Graphia. Amaterasu! Whispered Naruto as jet black flames rushed towards Graphia, who in turn used her powers to try and block the oncoming attack. Ice of the Devil! Glacial wall, said Graphia as a large wall appeared in front of her, seemingly blocking the flames. However, as little as a second passed and the wall of ice broke from the sheer force of the flames. Barely escaping in time, Graphia jumped towards the side to escape the oncoming flames. Before she could regain her concentration of her surroundings, Graphia felt an invisible force attack her from behind, pushing her into the ground. Slowly getting up, Graphia noticed that Naruto attacked her from behind, even though he was in front of her just moments before. "Surprised, my dear Graphia?" questioned Naruto as he watched her downed form slowly get back up. "My flames were just a decoy for you to get distracted and for me to attack you from behind with my Shinra Tensei." "Pretty neat, huh?" he said as Graphia got back up. "Why are you telling me this, Naruto-san? You are telling your secrets to an enemy," coldly stated Graphia as she refocused on the fight. "I won't get distracted that easily anymore." "So cold," smiled Naruto as he got back into his fighting stance. With no sort of indication, whether it was a spike in power or change in stance, Naruto rushed once again. "Shinra Tensei!" whispered Naruto as an invisible force made its way towards Graphia. This time, Graphia was ready for the push made by Naruto and made countermeasures to evade the attack. Understanding his attack, Graphia used her wings to fly up in the air to avoid the attack and charged up her magical power. "Ice of the Devil! Devil's Rage!" shouted Graphia as a large torrent of ice made its way towards Naruto. "Power of Creation! God's Barrier!" calmly whispered Naruto as a barrier surrounded Naruto, blocking the ice from attacking him. As the ice cleared away from him, he noticed that Graphia was no longer in the air. Suddenly he saw a blue orb just a few feet away from him. The same attack used against Searzex was coming his way. "Shit, I can't create a barrier in time," cursed Naruto as he braced for the explosion that would come his way. A long period of silence lasted around the battlefield, only for a large explosion to be heard from all around. Searzex and Ijuka had to fly away from the explosion while Graphia was already away. As the explosion occurred, no one could see what became of Naruto or even if he had even survived the attack. As the dust and smoke cleared the area, the three devils heard a voice from within the explosion. "I guess I shouldn't have explained my techniques, huh?" said Naruto as when the smoke cleared, what they saw was Naruto with gashes and bruises were surrounded by blood. However, if one would look closely, they would see that the gashes and bruises were already healing at an abnormal rate. Searzex and Ijuka let out a sigh of relief that the fight wasn't over and they still had a chance for a powerful enemy to be on their side. Graphia, in the meantime, didn't show it, but she was shocked by how fast Naruto's healing factor was and that he wasn't at all fazed by one of her powerful techniques. "This guy is very dangerous. I need to watch out for his attacks and constantly damage him to slow that healing factor of his," thought Graphia. As she was thinking of her strategy, Graphia failed to notice that Naruto had already left the spot from where the explosion was and already was behind her. "You're distracted right now, my dear Graphia," whispered Naruto from behind, snapping Graphia out of her thoughts. Before she could even do anything, Naruto slammed her down towards the ground. As Graphia was falling towards the ground, in hopes of breaking her fall, she used her wings to reduce the damage, but what shocked her was that Naruto was already waiting for her down below. Grinning at her, Naruto focused his energy towards his hand, and when Graphia was a few moments away from him, he punched her in the stomach, sending her back into the air. "Arg!" shouted Graphia as blood sprayed out of her mouth from the force of his punch. Dazed from the punch, she never noticed that Naruto was behind her once again, waiting with a blue spiral ball of energy. "Rasengan," said Naruto as the blue ball of energy was launched onto her back, sending her down to the ground. Struggling to get up, Graphia now had a hole gaping in her stomach. Graphia had to resort to use her healing magic to heal as quickly as possible. "Devil's Blessing. Heal," whispered Graphia as a hue of green magic surrounded her hand, where she then put it near her stomach. Any sort of hole that was once there was now gone, and all that was left as a result was her beautiful pale-toned stomach. "Wow," whistled Naruto as he witnessed Graphia using her healing magic. "Your healing magic is pretty good. Almost as good as mine," he said as Graphia had a small scowl at the comment. He was basically saying that he was better than her and was almost as good as him. "The nerve of this guy to underestimate me," thought Graphia as she calmed down and started to focus. Off to the side with Sirzex and Ajuka. "Looks like she is getting serious now," said Ajuka as he noticed how Graphia was focusing more and more, gathering her energy. She wasn't serious before, because it looked like she was pretty serious when she was getting beaten up by Naruto, said Sirzex as he thought that Graphia was just weaker than Naruto and couldn't really put much of a fight against him. No, she was never taking the fight seriously, but merely gauging how strong Naruto was. It looks like it failed for her because she ended up taking a lot of damage. "I'm sure that Naruto wasn't taking the fight seriously yet either and still isn't," stated Ajuka. "Do you think this fight will end soon? It looks like it will take a while before a victor emerges," questioned Sirzex as Ajuka thought about it for a moment before giving his answer. "This fight will either end really soon or will drag on for a while. I don't think that there is a middle ground for how long this fight will last based on their power. Either someone gets the upper hand and completely destroys the other, or none do and will cause a game of endurance," he said as Sirzex nodded at his logic. Back to the fight. As Graphia focused, Naruto noticed the sharp increase in her power and the aura she was emitting because of the power. "She is starting to get serious now. Hopefully she will give me an amazing fight," thought Naruto as he too started to focus and build up his energy. As both of them gathered up their energy, the ground around them started to shake because of the sheer power they were emitting. Sirzex and Ajuka even had to wipe off the sweat that was building because of how strong they both were. Suddenly, Graphia made the first move. "Ice of the Devil. Howling Dawn," whispered Graphia as the blue orb of energy made its way in front of her and was launched towards Naruto. "Hey, you think that will work on me twice? Shame on you," said Naruto as he dodged the oncoming attack, but what surprised was that Graphia was not deterred by his response, but merely smirked. "Ice of the Devil. Dragon," shouted Graphia as a large dragon made of ice flew past Naruto towards her blue ball of energy. The dragon used its mouth to latch onto her previous spell and made its way towards Naruto. "Fuck," cursed Naruto as he had to brace himself for the attack as he did not expect a combined attack from her two spells. "Finally," muttered Graphia as she was getting drained from using such powerful attacks at the same time. Just when she thought she could regain some of her energy back, clapping was suddenly heard from her right. Naruto was on her right, unscathed by the attack and looking well. "I must say that was very well in execution," said Naruto as he applauded her effort. "However, I'm sorry to say this, but I substituted myself with a clone to avoid your attack. Remember when I sent you flying to the ground and hitting you back up? The me on the ground was my clone," grinned Naruto as Graphia's eyes grew wide at such a powerful technique. "You are indeed a powerful foe, but I'm sorry to say that this match will end very soon in my favor," said Naruto as he rushed towards her. Graphia, having been drained of her energy from her spells, closed her eyes and braced herself for an attack to hit her, but it never came. Slowly opening her eyes, she noticed that Naruto's eyes have changed and instead of his usual blue were replaced with blood-red eyes with circular lines with black dots. She heard him mutter, "Tsukiyomi," before she went unconscious. Inside Tsukiyomi world, Graphia's eyes opened as she saw herself surrounded in a pitch-black area with Naruto being the only living being seen. She saw Naruto coming towards her and braced herself for another attack, but like before, it never came, leaving her confused. "Right now you are trapped in an illusion that will last for 72 hours, but will only last a few seconds in the real world. If you wish to give up, now would be the time to do so, or I will use measures to make sure that you are certain to lose," stated Naruto as Graphia took note of her surroundings. "What will happen if I choose not to give up? What will you do then?" questioned Graphia as Naruto chuckled at her question. "I don't have to tell you that, but since I'm feeling nice I'll tell you. If you choose not to give up, I will make you fight me for 72 hours to show the difference between our powers and just how strong I am compared to you," he said as Graphia thought about her options and ultimately came to a decision. "I'm sorry Naruto-san, but I will not give up that easily. If I gave up, then I would be a disgrace to the Lucifage household and to Lord Lucifer himself. It would also not be wise to look down upon me as I am quite capable of defending myself, said Graphia as Naruto smiled at her. Very well. You shall fight me and witness the power of someone that is on a different class than you, he said as he readied himself to fight, as did Graphia. Outside the Tsukiyomi world, just 3 seconds have passed before Graphia, who was standing, fell down to her knees, a look of defeat etched across her face as she fought Naruto for 72 hours to see who was stronger. Naruto, who was standing in front of her, crouched down and used his hand to lift her chin up to face him. Do you admit your defeat now and serve me for eternity, or will you perish on the battlefield? Whispered Naruto as Graphia looked Naruto in the eyes and gave her answer. With Circex and Ajuka, what just happened? Questioned Circex as he noticed that a few seconds ago, Graphia was putting up a fight against Naruto, and the next few seconds was of her standing still then falling to her knees. It looks like it's over in favor of Naruto, but I didn't think it would happen this fast. I would have expected Graphia to put more of a fight against him, said Ajuka as he noticed the way the blonde waited for Graphia to open her eyes to look at him in the eyes. Maybe it has something to do with the way his eyes change, thought Ajuka as he grew more curious about learning Naruto's powers. Well, whatever happened, we should go to them right now as they are coming towards us, said Circex as he and Ajuka flew over to them, where Naruto grinned at them and Graphia was as stoic as she could be. Both of you, say hi to Graphia Lucifage, she is now helping you guys, cheered Naruto as he put his arm around Graphia, who lightly blushed at the action. However, muttered Naruto as the air grew heavy, if your fellows wish to scorn her or make her try to do something I deem unreasonable like execution, then I will not hesitate to kill them and abstain her from helping you guys, said Naruto. Of course, said Circex as he nodded his head furiously. I will make sure to tell our allies that Graphia is now helping us and will make sure that she doesn't receive any negative treatment. If anything does happen, please let me punish them first, pleaded Circex. Fine, sighed Naruto, making Circex and Ajuka breath a sigh of relief from the potential unnecessary deaths on their side. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go back to base and end this war as fast as possible, said Naruto as he still had his arm around Graphia, who made no effort to get it off. Yes, let's, said Ajuka, before he remembered something. Wait, what about the general? What will we do with him? He said as Naruto and Graphia both forgot about him. All of them looked towards the downed form of the general. I think we will have to kill him, said Naruto as he looked down to Graphia, who was facing an inner turmoil of killing her ex-comrade. Is that okay with you, Graphia? If we let him live, then more damage might come our way with him leading an army, he said as Graphia nodded at his comment. Hi, Naruto-sama, you can kill him. It's for the better of ending this war earlier anyways, she whispered as he nodded his head and teleported to the general. Quickly stabbing him in the heart, Naruto closed his eyes and made his way back, officially ending an ally of Lucifer. Ajuka, noticing how Naruto finished, created a magic circle to teleport them all to the base camp. Also, said Naruto as he stood next to Graphia, don't add the Sama in my name. Just call me Naruto or Naruto-kun, okay? Said Naruto as he smiled at her, causing her to slightly smile at his kindness. Okay, Naruto-kun, whispered Graphia as she didn't want Circex and Ajuka to hear her act so unprofessional. She did have a reputation to uphold after all, and the only one allowed to see a difference was now Naruto. Alright, let's end this war and bring peace to the underworld, shouted Circex as they all disappeared back to base camp. As the 3 devils and 1 immortal came back to the base camp, they noticed that the older devils were all grouped up, discussing strategies on how to stop the advancement of the Satan faction. Raviel was currently talking, while Zeoticus, Venelana, Raven, Steven, Serena and some other devils listened to his tactics. As Raviel continued talking, he was interrupted by Circex, who decided to announce his presence. We're back everyone, and we got a new ally, yelled Circex as he smiled broadly towards the older devils. As the older devils raised an eyebrow at who the new ally was, Cirzek's grin only widened as he pointed his hand towards Graphia, who looked towards them with a stoic face and introduced herself to them. Hello everyone, my name is Graphia Lucifuge and I will help fight to end this war, she said as she bowed her head down. The older devils were shocked that they were able to gain such a powerful ally on their side, but were a little skeptical because of her known status of serving the Lucifer household for generations. Venelana, who was skeptical about the ordeal, decided to speak her mind about her skepticism. Hello Graphia-san. You are a prominent figure for the Satan faction and a powerful one at that. So why would you suddenly defect to our side? Are you planning on betraying us because you have been serving Lucifer for generations? Said Venelana as she wanted to make sure that nothing bad would happen and cost them the war. Ka-saw. Circex was about to assure his mother that nothing wrong would happen with Graphia about defecting back to the Satan faction, but said person in question beat him to it. I will not be defecting back to the Satan faction because I now owe my life to Naruto-sama. I wouldn't be alive right now if it wasn't for him giving me a choice. Said Graphia as she lightly smiled when remembering his generosity towards her, whereas any other devil would have killed her on the spot. Venelana nodded her head from the words said by Graphia. It sounded like her life was now in the hands of another, and one that seemed to be trustworthy as well. With that in her mind, Venelana turned her head to Naruto, who had his eyes closed throughout the entire ordeal, looking as calm and as handsome as ever. What was that thought just now? He's handsome, yes, but I have a husband right now. Thought Venelana as she shook her head from such thoughts and focused on the current topic. Is this true, Naruto-san? Is her life now in your hands and are you sure she will not betray us? Questioned Venelana as she waited for him to answer her question. What she got was him opening his eyes and looking around the room and focusing his eyes onto Venelana, who waited patiently for his answer. For a few moments, Naruto was just staring at Venelana with a blank look, while said devil started to grow impatient from his lack of response. Well, is it true? Said Venelana as she put her hands on her hip and started to tap her foot impatiently, unfit for a high-class devil such as herself. What was the question again? I dozed out for a second there, said Naruto as he picked his right ear and looked around the room. Everyone in the room, save for Venelana, sweat dropped at his unprofessionalism and lack of respect, while Venelana grew irritated from his answer. Taking a deep breath to calm herself, she repeated her question for him again. It would be unwise to throw a fit about his rudeness when they were in the middle of a civil war. I repeat, are you sure that Graphia-san will not betray us and her life is now in your hands? She said as Naruto nodded his head at her question. Of course she won't betray us. She is now mine and I am confident that everything that is mine will stay mine and no one else's. Said Naruto as Graphia lightly blushed at how possessive he already was of her when they were just enemies a few moments ago. I see, then I will trust you with your word, said Venelana as she, along with Raven and Serena, thought that his possessiveness was an alluring trait of his. With that topic out of the way, Raviel put them up to speed with what they were currently planning and continued his strategy about what would happen. Naruto, who was standing next to Graphia, whispered, "Don't worry Graphia. I will make sure that nothing bad happens to you. I will keep my word on that." Those words made her blush again, something that Naruto caught and chuckled at her shyness. Seraphol and Falbium, who were leading a separate army, came back to base camp to confirm their lead over the old Satan faction. They made their way towards Circex, Ajuka, Naruto, and Graphia, where they were told of Graphia's allegiance towards them. As Seraphol listened to the strategy, she remembered the encounter she had with Naruto and blushed at the memory. What made her blush even more was the fact that she was standing next to him and felt the power coming off of him. Power attracts female devils after all. Fall, Seraphol, said Circex, snapping Seraphol out of her stupor. Everyone was looking at her with confused looks about her lack of response, making her blush out of embarrassment. Yes, she said as Circex sighed at her failing to understand the plan that they were about to execute. This plan would be the turning point in the war that will drastically change everything for them. You, along with Graphia, will use your eyes to halt the forces of the old Satan faction army, while I, along with Naruto, will obliterate them as fast as possible to drastically decrease their numbers. Ajuka and Falbium will make sure that no harm will come our way and also advance our army. Understand? It's essential that you work together with Graphia, said Circex as Seraphol nodded her head and looked towards Graphia, who nodded her head towards her. Okay, I understand, said Seraphol as she turned towards Graphia and nodded her head towards her. I hope we get along and work together, she said as Graphia nodded her head once again in approval. Great, now we can put this plan in motion and finally end this war, said Zeoticus, but before he could tell them to put the plan in motion, Naruto raised his hand. Yes, Naruto-san? He questioned. Before we fight, who is leading the old Satan faction so I can understand who we are going up against? He said as Zeoticus nodded at the question. The ones currently leading are the descendants of the Satans. Rizavum Levon Lucifer, Shalba Beelzebub, Croisery Asmodeus, and Cateria Leviathan. Rizavum, however, is nowhere to be seen during the entirety of the war, so we believe that he is in hiding. So, we would be fighting against 3 out of the 4 descendants of the original Satans, said Zeoticus. Not having Rizavum greatly increases their chances of winning the war because he is just as strong as Sirzex and Ajuka, who both are considered to be super devils. Naruto, whose original task was to assist Sirzex to end the civil war, understood that the war was coming to a close, and that his time with helping them would be over. However, he felt compelled to stay longer with them, even after the war is over. Staying with 5 beautiful ladies is also a plus as well, thought Naruto as he looked over at Venelana, Serena, Raven, Seraphal, and Graphia and nodded his head in approval. I see. This war should be coming to an end now, with us being the victors. Said Naruto as Graphia, who was by his side, nodded her head, but was worried about meeting her ex-comrades again and facing the backlash of her defection. Alright, finally. Enough talking. Let's end this war now and go. Shouted Sirzex as everyone in the room yelled in agreement. As they all started to teleport to the ally camp closest to the old Satan faction base, Naruto reassured Graphia about her decision to defect. Don't worry about what your ex-comrades think about your defection. After all, this wouldn't have had to happen if they thought about preserving the devil race. Whispered Naruto as he seemingly read her thoughts and worries. Hi Naruto-sama, I'll try not to, whispered back Graphia, making Naruto nod his head in satisfaction. Thinking about their encounter and fight, Graphia couldn't help but be happy that she was not under the oppressiveness of the old Satan faction and now with a person that has been nothing but generous and kind towards her. He is a really nice person, thought Graphia as she looked down at her hands to hide her smile. Alley base camp near old Satan faction. Okay, now that we are here, let's make sure that everything goes to plan. Said Raviol as everyone else teleported into the base camp to make sure that everything goes smoothly for them. The rest of our army should be coming in just a few moments. That means that there will be approximately 50,000 of us fighting the main location for the old Satan faction. He said, let's keep the injuries to a minimum by grouping up. Make sure that no one is ever alone because that gives the enemy an opportunity to slowly deplete our forces, which is something that must be prevented, said Steven, who is leading the medical unit for the anti-Satan faction. Everyone there understood how serious he was to be in groups because of how he has to deal with the injuries with his team. Shortly after his talk, the rest of the Devil Army teleported around the base camp to get ready for the upcoming fight. Alright, Graphia and Seraphal, you two will be on the front lines freezing everything in our path, while Sirzex and Naruto will destroy afterwards. Me and Falbium will continue leading the army to make sure that no ambushes come our way, said Ajuka. He is leading the group while the older devils stayed back to make sure nothing came through, making them the final defense. Okay, said everyone. With that, the devils plus immortals started to head out and prepared to head straight towards the old Satan faction base. Old Satan faction base, Katareya-sama, we have a problem right now. Our forces are depleting rapidly because of the attacks from the anti-Satan faction and Graphia hasn't returned from her operation yet. Nor has the general either. Shouted a devil as he rushed in the area Cateria Leviathan was resting. Stupid anti-Satan faction trash. Graphia hasn't come back either? She either died or defected. Go now and gather all the troops. I will call in Croisery and Shalba to help, said Cateria as she got ready. Cateria is a tall, beautiful woman with long brown hair tied in a bun and a voluptuous figure. Her outfit has a slit down the middle, showing her large assets. Where the fuck is Rizavum? He should be helping us out with this shit, cursed Cateria as she called Croisery and Shalba to help attack. Croisery, Shalba, we need to attack the anti-Satan faction now or else we will have to retreat. Yelled Cateria through the magical speaker. Already? I will gather my troops to come there immediately. These anti-Satan trash don't know when to fucking stop, yelled Shalba through the speaker. I will gather my troops as well and will be there as fast as possible, said Croisery through the speaker. Okay, hurry up or else we are going to be in trouble. I can't believe we are having so much trouble against these lowly bastards, said Kateria as she ended the call. Before she could even get ready to leave her room, another devil barged in with more urgent news. Kateria-sama, the anti-Satan faction is moving towards us at a fast rate. Our forces are getting frozen over and destroyed. I've got intel that it looks like Graphia-sama has defected over to them and is working with Serafal Citri on the offense. Yelled a devil. Graphia has defected over? That fucking traitor. I'm going out right now to destroy these bastards. The other two will be coming soon, so I will fucking hold out, yelled Kateria out of frustration. She leaked out immense demonic power to the point where the room started to shake. The devil who was in the room with her quickly took his leave out of fear, leaving her to herself. Battlefield with anti-Satan faction. Ice of the devil. Blizzard, ice flowers, yelled Graphia and Serafal respectively. The devils of the old Satan faction that were rushing towards them were suddenly frozen by the attacks of the two female devils. Graphia's attacks slowed them down tremendously, followed up by Serafal's attack, which were large ice flowers that blew up, freezing everything within its vicinity, which in this case were the old Satan faction devils. Power of destruction. Rain, yelled Sirzex. The devils encased in ice were all destroyed by the rain made out of the power of destruction, clearing the area in front of them instantly. The rest of the army from the old Satan faction were shocked by how quickly their offensive force got obliterated, and only 3 of their enemies were attacking them. If only 3 of their members were able to clear a large chunk of the army, what would happen when all of them attacked? The only thing the soldiers from the old Satan faction could do is stall until 3 out of their 4 leaders come to save them. While the old Satan faction were frozen in shock by what just happened to their offensive force, Sirzex was have a one-sided argument with Naruto, who was not listening to what he was shouting about at all. Naruto, how could you not attack with me? We are supposed to clean up together. I'm not supposed to do all the work together, shouted Sirzex, while Naruto picked his right ear, looking at anything else other than Sirzex for a moment, until he stopped to look at him. Sirzex, you were perfectly capable of doing the attack by yourself. Graphia and Serafal worked together perfectly, instantly destroying those fools, so there was no need for me to waste my energy on them right now, said a straight-faced Naruto. Sirzex grew irritated by how lazy he was, while Graphia and Serafal blushed lightly from his praise. Stop being so lazy and work together. If I recall, aren't you supposed to help me defeat the old Satan faction? That was my wish after all, so you have to work together with me, argued Sirzex, causing Naruto to sigh at his stubbornness. Graphia and Serafal, who momentarily forgot about the war, were confused about why Naruto exactly would be obligated to listen to Sirzex. Graphia, who was curious, asked Naruto, Naruto-sama, why are you listening to Sirzex-san command? Serafal nodded at the question as well, curious because as far as the both of them could tell, Naruto was stronger than Sirzex by a large margin. I am working for Sirzex because he found my place of rest and awoke me. I said I would grant one wish within my power to the person who awoke me, and Sirzex was the one who found me. He wished for me to help end the war, explained Naruto, who noticed that the old Satan faction started to push. What happens after you grant his wish? Where will you go then? Asked Serafal, as she was unsure if she wanted the blonde to leave just yet. His presence was comforting and his actions made her feel strange. Graphia was also worried that she wouldn't be with her master anymore if he completes the wish. Don't worry about that right now. I'm still deciding about that. I will give my answer after the war, okay? Right now let's focus on winning this war because they're moving towards us right now, said Naruto as he pointed ahead of them, where the old Satan faction army was moving. Right, let's move, said an embarrassed Sirzex, while Graphia and Serafal could only nod in embarrassment about forgetting that they were currently fighting in a war. As the four started to refocus, Ajuka shouted at them, causing them to halt. Hold on, yelled Ajuka, causing the four to look behind to see him moving his hand, telling them to come to him. They listened to his command, as he was the current leader, and rushed back towards him. I sensed another presence that arrived on their side. It is vastly stronger than any of the other signatures there, so I assume that it is either Kateria, Shalba, or Kroizari, explained Ajuka. Naruto, who nodded his head at the observation, raised his head and explained who he thought was there. I think that it is Kateria. I can sense the aura around a person. He decided to leave Senjutsu out of his explanation, and see that it resembles a woman. Man, you female devils have some insane genetics. Your bodies are very, said Naruto, while giving a thumbs up to Graphia and Seraphol. Graphia and Seraphol, in turn, slapped Naruto in the back of the head, calling him a pervert, both blushing at his shamelessness. Well, let's just have Graphia and Seraphol do the same thing as before. Naruto, please work together with Circex this time. The faster we end their army, the better. We need to end Kateria before Shalba and Kroizari come to help her. The three of them fighting together could prove to be very troublesome, and potentially increase the duration of the war. Falbium and I will continue to lead the army, said Ajuka, ignoring Noro's previous statement about female devil genetics. Okay, shouted the four as they went and prepared to defeat the old Satan faction. With the old Satan faction? Kateria-sama, thank Lucifer you are here now. We don't know how long we would last without your help. The enemies are currently distracted by something, so we should attack now, shouted a devil general. No, we must wait for Shalba and Kroizari to arrive. For now, just push to assert our dominance. We can't let these anti-Satan faction scum advance and defeat us. Losing is not an option, especially with Graphia defecting to their side, spat Kateria. As much as she wanted to destroy the anti-Satan faction army, she was not strong enough to defeat two devils on par with Rizavam, Graphia, and an entire army. Seraphol, she could beat, but the person with the blonde hair was an unknown entity to her. Looks like they are pushing right now, muttered Kateria. Shalba and Kroizari are almost here, so we might as well fight now. I can stall for time with my defensive abilities, thought Kateria. She might as well fight now and stall for the other two to come to help her. Devils, for the sake of our race and for the preservation of our fallen leaders, we must give everything and fight. Let's destroy these scum, yelled Kateria, getting a cheer from her army. They in turn started to rush towards the anti-Satan faction in hopes of crushing them. With Graphia, Seraphol, Naruto and Circex. Looks like Kateria riled them up, said Seraphol, hearing the female devil shout to her army. The fast pace coming from the enemy army was also another indication that she did something to fuel them up. Get ready to use some of your strongest attacks. We need to get rid of them as fast as possible and focus on Kateria, said Circex. He was confident that the two female devils could defeat the entire army, but if they couldn't, then there was always Ajuka, Falbium and their army coming in. Ice of the devil. Blizzard, ice flowers, yelled Graphia and Seraphol a second time. They were thinking that their attacks would penetrate the old Satan faction defenses, but their attacks had no effect, other than getting absorbed by magical energy. Shit, cursed Graphia. She had a feeling this would happen, as Kateria was there to defend them. This was Kateria's work. She is known for her defensive capabilities and must have known that we were going to attack first. Let's attack all at once. I'm sure that Kateria can't absorb all the attacks at once, said Circex. Their army was still on standby. If Kateria is able to absorb all of their attacks, then he would be forced to signal Ajuka to attack with them. Let's attack now, muttered Circex. He didn't want the enemy to hear him and instinctively defend. They needed to shock them. Ice of the devil. Blizzard, ice flowers, power of destruction. Rain, said Graphia, Seraphol, and Circex. Naruto waited a bit for the attacks to shoot before muttering his. Raijin, muttered Naruto. Kateria, who saw their attacks, prepared a larger absorption hold to defend her army. It didn't matter how strong her enemy was. This defense is her strongest and is able to absorb multiple super devil attacks. Graphia, Circex, and Seraphol hoped their attacks would penetrate Kateria's defenses, but sadly, their attacks got absorbed into her hull. But what shocked them afterwards was the massive amount of concentrated electricity that broke through Kateria's barrier and destroyed the front line of her army. They turned their heads towards Naruto, who looked unfazed by his attack, and looked at them. Well, said Naruto, let's push. Circex, tell Ajuka and Falbium to attack with us. Let's just end this, I'm getting tired. His response caused the three of them to just nod their heads. If this guy was so overpowered to destroy a barrier that the three of them combined couldn't, then why didn't he just end it already? Why don't you just end this war? You're clearly on another level than us, so why don't you quickly end it, questioned Circex. All he got was an eyebrow raise from Naruto. Why would I fight your wars? I only said that I would help you win the war, not do it for you. This is your own war to fight, and all I will do is assist. If I was to end this war now, then you would clearly learn nothing and gain nothing from this, other than unwarranted arrogance. Learn to fight for yourself and don't rely on others for help. Berated Naruto. He also didn't want to do so much work either, but they didn't need to know that. That makes sense, muttered Seraphol, as she understood how important it is to not overly rely on others for help. She was spoiled by her parents when growing up and saw how some other devils weren't as fortunate as her. Relying on her parents would just make her a selfish brat. All right then. With renewed vigor, Sirzex signaled Ajuka and Falbium to push with them. Working together as an army will be the most efficient way to fight the thousands of devils. We must go fast. It seems like Shalba and Croisery arrived as well, and with an army. I just sensed thousands of new signatures and 2 stronger signatures arrive, said Falbium. He wanted to make sure that their side would sustain minimal casualties, but it seems like their chances of minimal casualties is gone. Let's go then. I'm tired of waiting around. This is our chance to win. Rizavam is absent and the rest of them are here. Let's end this, shouted Sirzex. He wanted to hype up everyone, and it indeed worked. He was also tired of hearing the same thing repeatedly as well. Their army shouted in support, and Graphia, Seraphol, Falbium, and Naruto smiled. Old Satan faction during Naruto's attack. "Oh, how did that attack destroy my ultimate defense?" whispered Kateria in shock. This blonde proved to be more troublesome and dangerous than she thought. Just as she thought it would get any more worse for her, Kateria felt the presence of her 2 allies, causing her to smile slightly at the silver lining. Shalba Beelzebub is a relatively handsome man with brown hair that reaches all the way down to his hip. His long brown hair covers his right eye. His outfit consists of black armor that covers his entire body, except for his head and a black cape. Croisery Asmodeus is another good-looking man with pale skin, pointy ears, and his hair tied up in a ponytail. His outfit consists of a black and red garb, similar to that of a shinobi, a black cape, and black boots. Kateria, you can't even protect your army from an attack. How pathetic, said Shalba, immediately causing Kateria to scowl at his ignorance and arrogance. Just for your information, I was able to block Sirzex, Seraphol, and Graphia's attacks combined. But the blonde over there was somehow able to penetrate my defense and destroy the front of my army with his lightning attack. He is a very dangerous enemy, so I will warn you about him. Shalba didn't take her warning very seriously and laughed at her, while Croisery was a little skeptical about it. Ha 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 ha, you are very funny, Kateria. Let's just get this over with and fight. I don't want to hear your jokes anymore, he said. Kateria scowled at his words, but didn't say anything because she wanted to end this war and needed him to fight together with her. Soldiers, yelled Shalba, getting the attention of the entirety of the old Satan faction army, which was about 35,000 devils. Get ready to fight. With me here now, we will win, shouted Shalbla, getting shouts from the army. With that, the old Satan faction army was ready to take down the anti-Satan faction army. With the anti-Satan faction army, they're coming at us right now, so prepare yourselves, yelled Ajuka. This fight was going to be brutal and he wanted to make sure everyone was ready for it. Ice of the Devil, Dragon, Ice Explosion, yelled Graphia and Seraphol. Their attack almost landed on the enemy army, had not it been for the defense Kateria erected just before it happened and absorbed both attacks. TCH, said both female devils. Thinking the same thing, they both shouted, Naruto. Destroy the barrier. We both will go attack Kateria head-on, while Ajuka and Falbium will attack Croisery. Shalba after you destroy the defense. Kateria's defense wouldn't be able to defend against his attack, and it would take a while before she would be able to create another one as well. Nodding at them, Naruto prepared to use the same move against them. After all, since it worked the last time, it would work again. Gathering natural energy, Naruto muttered, Raijin. A large concentration of electrical energy thundered down upon Kateria's defense, but before it reached the defense, a figure stood in between the two and blocked the attack. Shalba, who noticed the importance of the defense, jumped in to take on the attack head-on. He's widely known for his physical defense and could take a multitude of attacks, so being none the wiser, he jumped to take on Naruto's attack. Arg! Shouted Shalba. He did prevent Naruto's attacks from hitting Kateria's defense, but in turn, he felt the electric currents throughout his body, paralyzing him and prevented him from moving from his position, which was directly in front of Kateria's defense. He was in a very dangerous and vulnerable position. Naruto was a little shocked that Shalba didn't die from his attack and was impressed that he put himself in front of the strong defense made by Kateria. He's smarter than he looks, thought Naruto. While Shalba did indeed block his attack, Raijin was an attack that paralyzed its opponent when phased directly. This was his time for a second, more dangerous attack. Amaterasu, whispered Naruto. Jet black flames quickly engulfed Shalba, Kateria's defense, and the area around it. His attack killed thousands of enemy devils, destroyed Kateria's defense, and left Shalba writhing in agony. Arg! Screamed Shalba, as he felt his skin melting from the intensity of the flames. It was very hard for him to think of anything at the time other than getting the flames around him extinguished. Beelzebub defense. Expel! Screamed Shalba. A cloak of pure demonic energy surrounded Shalba, and attempted to expel the flames around him by force. However, his move did nothing but strengthen the intensity of the flames. Meanwhile, Graphia, who quickly witnessed the move that would have hit her, had it not been for her dodging the attack, was shocked by how even Shalba's physical defense, which he was known for, couldn't extinguish the flames. Amaterasu is an attack that creates flames that last for 7 days and nights. It is extremely difficult to extinguish, other than by the user, or by some powerful magic, said Naruto through a mental link to Graphia. Graphia was none the wiser to the oncoming voice of Naruto and momentarily froze. She had to quickly dodge Kateria's attack that was about to hit her. Naruto-sama, please warn me the next time you talk to me through telepathy. I did not know you had that ability and it's a little disturbing. We are going to have to talk about this afterwards, said Graphia through the mental link Naruto established with her. Sorry, said an unapologetic Naruto before he closed the clink between the two. Back to Shalba, who had no way of extinguishing the flames, was quickly deteriorating, and had to force himself to submit to get help from another member. Kroizuri, hurry up and come help me extinguish these flames, bellowed Shalba. Kroizuri, who was currently fighting both Ajuka and Falbium, inwardly cursed at the problem. If he were to go help Shalba, that would mean he would be vulnerable from their attacks. However, if he left Shalba to die, then they would be severely wounded and have a high chance of losing the war. Seeing that Kroizuri was distracted, Falbium let loose his attack. Offensive mode. Release, shouted Falbium. All of the stored of demonic energy he received from his attacks was let loose into a single beam of charged demonic energy. Aiming it towards Kroizuri, it resulted in a large explosion around the area, sending devils from both sides flying. As the smoke cleared, all that was left was floating particles in the air. Shit, that was a fucking clone. He probably created one before the attack hit him, cursed Ajuka. He noticed that Kroizuri was doing nothing to block the attack, and as soon as the beam hit and the explosion occurred, his energy signature disappeared instantly. However, even Ajuka thought that he died from the attack. Off to the center of the battlefield where Shalba resided, Kroizuri was also there, healing Shalba and extinguishing the flames. Asmodeus recovery. Dispel, said a labored Kroizuri as he concentrated a large amount of energy to wrap Shalba in a shroud, stopping the flames from burning him, and effectively burning it out. The shroud was healing up Shalba at a fast rate, only lasting a few seconds before disappearing, relieving Shalba of his burns. The toll it took from Kroizuri was tremendous because he had to time his escape perfectly, creating a clone out of pure demonic energy to escape before the beam hit him. This spell took a large amount from his reserves and he also had to heal Shalba as well. Both of the spells effectively rendered him useless for a short period of time, making him unable to fight Ajuka and Falbium. Shalba, wheezed Kroizuri as he finished healing him. I can't fight for a few minutes right now. My reserves are very low because of their attacks and my healing spell. You have to fight them as well, he said before he disappeared, finding a place to heal without anyone fighting him. TCH. Fucking useless. I had to do this all by myself. Fine, I'll show them not to mess with Shalba Beelzebub, sneered Shalba as he focused and gathered a large amount of demonic energy. With Ajuka and Falbium, shit, I can't sense Kroizuri anywhere. He must have left to fill up his reserves, said Ajuka as he tried to sense his energy signature but failed to find it. We should help the others right now. You go fight Kateria with Graphia-san and Serafal, while I'll help Naruto and Circex, commanded Ajuka. Nodding at his command, Falbium set off to help the two female devils. Noticing a spike in demonic energy, Ajuka quickly turned his head to see Shalba looking like he's never been scratched. He was currently surrounded in a dense cloak of demonic energy, showing that he was not playing around anymore. "Shit, this just cannot get any worse, can it?" said Ajuka as he quickly flew over to Circex and Naruto, who were about to unleash attacks on him. Power of destruction. Explode. Great fire annihilation, said Circex and Naruto respectively. Cirzex's attack was a condensed ball of the power of destruction when landed, created a massive explosion. Naruto's attack was a giant fireball and the impact was as strong as an earthquake. Expecting Shalba to be injured from both attacks, both of them were a little shocked to see Shalba still concentrating and not even fazed by both attacks. His defense is almost legendary in itself, and that cloak of demonic energy that's surrounding him right now is protecting him from almost any attack, said Ajuka as he landed next to Circex and Naruto. He is pretty much invincible when he focuses like that, so he must attack when he starts to attack us, said Ajuka. Just as he finished explaining Shalba's defense, the man in question opened his eyes, looking as calm as ever and confident as ever. With his newfound energy, he charged towards the three men. With Graphia, Serafal, Falbium, and Kateria. An injured Kateria was currently panting as Serafal and Graphia were unscathed from the battle. "Give up, Kateria, and your death will be a painless one," said Serafal as she readied to give another blow to Kateria, intent on obliterating her. "Kateria, give up now or else we will be forced to defeat you," said Graphia, as she also readied her attack. Falbium nodded at both of them and readied to attack as well. "Shut up, especially you, you fucking traitor," bellowed Kateria as she charged up more demonic energy and shot it towards them. Graphia, Serafal, and Falbium easily dodged her attack, but before they could regather their energy, Kateria was suddenly behind them, hitting all three of them on the back. "Leviathan offense." Piercing howl, shouted Katera. A stream of demonic energy was raining down behind the three devils, sending them crashing into the ground. "That was a lucky shot," panted Serafal as she got back up and flew back, as did Graphia and Falbium. They gathered together and stayed a distance away from Kateria, not giving her a chance to attack them alone. "TCH," said Kateria as she was slowly losing energy from continuous attacks and defending. She would not be able to last much longer and needed Croisery immediately. Quickly looking around, she couldn't find his presence and inwardly cursed at the problem, "That bastard leaving us. How dare he? I can't last much longer and need him." Falbium noticed Kateria distracted and quickly told Serafal and Graphia the plan. Using her distracted state as an opportunity, they decided to give it their all in a combined attack on her. Quickly flying towards Kateria, Serafal and Graphia charged their demonic energy and launched their attack upon her. "Ice of the Devil. Bellow, Ice Beam, offensive mode. Release," shouted Graphia and Serafal respectively. A large torrent of ice, a beam of concentrated ice, and a beam of demonic energy shot towards Kateria. Having no time to dodge, Kateria was forced to take the attacks head-on, launching her into a group of fighting devils and froze everything within the vicinity. "Arg!" screamed Kateria as blood shot out of her mouth and the hole created in her stomach. With no devil capable of healing her, she had no choice but to flee the scene and abandon the army and Shalba. Quickly creating a magical circle, she shouted, "I'll be fucking back, you shitty devils. Next time, I'll end all of you and relish it, especially you, you fucking traitor," screamed Kateria as she pointed at Graphia one last time before quickly escaping. Graphia and Serafal let out a sigh of relief, while Falbium let out a tired breath. A large threat was out of their way for the time being. Looking around, the only powerful figure left was Shalba Beelzebub since Croisery left to recover, probably indefinitely, and Kateria escaped. Looking at each other, they decided to clean up on the remaining enemy soldiers to reduce the injuries. They were confident that Ajuka, Circex, and Naruto could finish off Shalba together. All of them together would just be pointless. With Shalba, Ajuka, Circex, and Naruto. Shalba in his enhanced state was proving to be a difficult opponent for the two devils, while Naruto was not helping much. Sirzex and Ajuka were having a difficult time working together because Shalba was not giving them an opportunity to work together. Beelzebub offense. Raging bees. A large concentration of bees appeared out of a magic circle and shot large amounts of demonic energy at the three men. Shalba was also attacking as well, making it even more difficult for them to work together, as they were constantly dodging. Naruto, focus on the bees while me and Ajuka will focus on Shalba. Hurry, shouted Sirzex. He knew that Naruto would not help them in fighting Shalba because Naruto wanted them to gain more experience. The bees were the only option that would distract Shalba for a moment, giving Ajuka and him a perfect chance to attack. Oh no you fucking don't, shouted Shalba as he momentarily left Sirzex to go straight to Naruto, who was currently destroying the bees. As he was rushing at Naruto, he was suddenly forced to stop because of being in a bind. Ajuka, who saw Shalba rushing towards Naruto, trapped him in a bind with one of his most powerful spells. Kankara Formula Number 10. Eternal Prison, shouted Ajuka. A formula created string entrapped Shalba, effectively stopping all of his movement. Shalba desperately tried to force his way out of the bind using his demonic energy, but it only served to tighten the bind, strangling him even more. Both of you attack, shouted Naruto. Ajuka and Sirzex were already ahead of him and focused all of their energy into a combined attack. Ruin the Extinct. Kankara Formula Number 99. Death, said Sirzex and Ajuka respectively. A condensed ball of power of destruction was wrapped in a stream of numbers and formulas, all surrounded with an aura of death. All was silent when the attack landed, but a wave of energy quickly pulsated that was felt all throughout the battlefield. As the attack finished, the left portion of Shalba's body was obliterated. All Shalba could do was gasp from the power, not having the ability to even scream from the intensity of the attack. Ajuka and Sirzex were very tired, breathing heavily from the combined attack and the injuries sustained from Shalba. This was easily their hardest fight in their lives and it looks like they just won. As they were about to finish him off, Shalba quickly pulled out a scroll. A portal was erected under him, effectively sucking him in, leaving no trace of him behind. We beat him, whispered Sirzex as all traces of Shalba was gone. Looking around the battlefield, he noticed that all of the enemy devils were gone, with Seraphal finishing off the last one. Tears of happiness started to come out of Sirzex's eyes as all of them gathered together, with the army surrounding them. We did it, we won the war, shouted Sirzex as everyone around him shouted in agreement, even Naruto. As they were all celebrating the victory, Naruto observed the reaction of everyone around him. Sirzex, Ajuka, Falbium, and Seraphal were all hugging each other in happiness about finally being the victors and even Grafia let out a large smile from finally being free from the old Satan faction. He had to choose about leaving them after accomplishing his task, or staying a little more and he finally had an answer to give them. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like share and do comments.